Chapter 551. Lu Chen wondered if 30 million was enough. If he was on the safe side, 40 million should be enough. When he had just reached the third layer of heaven, Lu Chen's physical attack was about 300,000. But now, his level was full and Limitless Sword had devoured a lot of equipment. Now, without any buffs, Lu Chen's physical attack had reached 900,000 plus. He was only one step away from reaching a million. When the time came, he would activate rapid attack and flash shot and hit 40 punches. When the people from the Immortal Peak sect saw the guy on stage, they took 2 steps back. Lu Chen was about to hit the testing stone when he was stopped by someone. "Kid, don't you know the rules? Introduce yourself first." Lu Chen then remembered that the others had introduced themselves before the test. He turned to look at the rostrum. "Greetings to the seniors of the Immortal Peak sect. I have been in the 4th layer of heaven for 6 days. My military rank is militia." Someone beside him laughed. "Pfft, militia. Hey, kid, don't talk nonsense. We are all from the 3rd layer of heaven. Militia doesn't even have the qualifications to enter Tong Tian Tower." Lu Chen said, "I was jointly recommended by a 2-star power to participate in the tournament, and then I just happened to follow a very strong team." Lu Chen casually made up a reason. "Your luck is so good. The 3rd layer of heaven even recommends militia. No wonder there haven't been any newcomers to the 4th layer of heaven recently. Kid, don't you know your own strength? Don't tell me you took some attack increasing medicine and wanted to bluff your way through. Let me tell you, the testing stone can measure the proportion of your strength. Once it exceeds 100%, you will be disqualified forever." Lu Chen's eyes widened. Damn, the 4th layer of heaven's testing stone was so advanced. It could even measure the proportion of strength. Then wouldn't his plan to adjust the proportion of strength be useless? The purple-robed man said faintly, "Su Sheng, don't waste time. Let him test quickly. After he is done, he still has to go back." "Yes, Martial Uncle. Hey kid, hurry up and test. Don't waste our time." Lu Chen could only brace himself and test. War God Possession. Demon Transformation. Place of Death. Dragon Blood Boiling. While other players would toss out a bunch of amplification skills at the start of the battle, Lu Chen followed suit and used 4 amplification skills. With the addition of these 4 skills in the Madness passive, Lu Chen's current physical attack had soared to 1,600,000. This state was clearly much weaker than Lu Chen's strongest state. He still hadn't activated the 3 lives reincarnation, and he hadn't used his strongest 6 transformations yet. Even so, Lu Chen's damage was still frightening. Because Everlasting Sword had swallowed a lot of new equipment, Lu Chen's critical damage had increased by quite a bit. His double critical strike actually dealt about 4 times the damage, while a triple critical strike was about 6 times the damage. If it was a quintuple critical strike, it would be even more exaggerated, equivalent to 15 times the damage. A fierce tiger descends the mountain with 10 physical attacks and 100% critical strike. Even if it was the lowest double critical strike, it would definitely exceed 64 million. However, the problem was that it was impossible for all his attacks to be double critical strike. The chances of a triple or quadruple critical strike were not low. If there were a few critical strikes, it was possible for it to exceed 100 million. Most importantly, a fierce tiger descends the mountain did not even last a second. 40 to 50 million was Lu Chen's DPS, not the test results. Could it be that he had to stand there stupidly for the remaining 9 seconds? How annoying. He couldn't adjust the ratio of his strength. What if the damage was too high? It seemed that he could only turn off his combo attack talent and use normal attacks to slowly complete the 10 seconds. After thinking it through, Lu Chen began to punch. With one punch, there was a loud bang. The entire testing stone flew back more than a meter, and a fragment fell from the stone. 31 million, quintuple critical strike. Lu Chen almost collapsed. Quintuple critical strike after one punch. With a 1% chance, why was it so diligent? I've never seen it so diligent when fighting monsters. Looking at the fragment that fell from the stone, Lu Chen was terrified. What should he do? It had only been a second, and he had already lost 31 million. Unfortunately, the area around the ring, which had always been noisy, was now strangely quiet. The only sound that could be heard was the sound of the stone falling. Pa! It was exceptionally clear. What the fuck, wasn't this testing stone able to withstand tens of millions of damage? Why was it broken with one punch? Lu Chen guiltily glanced at the people from the extreme immortal sect. It wasn't just the people from the extreme immortal sect. 80% of the audience had the same expression. Everyone's mouths were wide open, and they could fit 2 eggs inside. My god. 31 million in one punch. What the fuck is this? He broke the testing stone. Could it be that the testing stone was broken from the very beginning? The delivery boy's jaw almost hit his own foot. No way, this guy, 30 million damage in one punch. That's more damage than 100 punches. The testing stone could withstand a large amount of damage, but the difference was that while other people dealt 10 seconds of damage, Lu Chen only dealt one punch. The purple-robed man took a deep breath and calmed down with great difficulty. Don't get too excited. He was just lucky to deal a 5 times critical hit. Martial uncle, the highest I've seen is a 3 times critical hit. Where did a 5 times critical hit come from? Moreover, even if it was a 5 times critical hit, the damage would be 200%. His physical attack would be in the millions. The purple-robed man thought for a moment and quickly came up with an answer. It should be some kind of consummate skill. If I'm not wrong, this should be an extremely explosive single-target skill. Others can deal many punches, but he just combined them into a single attack to produce a shocking explosive power. As expected of their martial uncle, he was able to see the reason behind it with a single glance. Everyone was enlightened. Yes, I've also heard of this kind of skill. Some single-target skills that consume a lot of energy, but the total damage is actually very high. It's just that these consummate skills are actually very weak. The damage is high, but once the opponent dodges, then all the previous efforts will be wasted. So that's how it is. If it was me and I had 2 skills, one is a skill that can deal multiple attacks, and the other is that guy's skill, I would definitely choose the former. Not only does a large number of attacks have endless variations, but the attacks are also continuous, causing more negative effects. It's much more useful in actual combat than this kind of all-or-nothing skill. The nature of the gamble is too heavy. If he hits, he can instantly kill the opponent. If he doesn't, then he's dead. This kind of consummate skill is definitely good to look at but useless. I estimate that it's at most a heaven-level low-level skill. Junior brother, this kind of skill can't even reach heaven level. You guys should have seen his ultimate move. There was no change in the move. It was just like a normal attack. It was just a punch. Who do you think would stand there and let him hit them? This move can only hit the testing stone. If it was a real battle, I can play with him until he doesn't know north. At first glance, I was really shocked by him. But after listening to Martial Uncle and Senior Brother's analysis, I've also been enlightened. The more everyone thought about it, the more they thought so. Accumulating all the strength in his body to deal a fatal punch, but in the end, it was easily dodged. In actual combat, this kind of consummate skill was completely good to look at but useless. No wonder he dared to go up on stage. It turns out that he has a consummate skill to deal with our test. TCH, militia is militia. Without experiencing the baptism of war, they only learn some useless skills. But Martial Uncle, he's already reached our standard. You see, the purple-robed man shook his head. There are always people who take advantage of loopholes. But after all, the cutoff points were set by the sect master. If we don't recruit him, others will say that our extreme immortal sect is unfair. Sigh, this loophole, he really took advantage of it. Hey kid, don't fight anymore. You've already passed. Now you're already an outer disciple of our extreme immortal sect. After saying that, the purple-robed man didn't even look at Lu Chen. He waited for his disciple to take back the testing stone before leading everyone back to Extreme Immortal Mountain. Before leaving, the purple-robed man left behind a sentence. Disciples of Extreme Immortal Sect have to go to the battlefield. Although your consummate skills damage is high, it's useless. Using this kind of opportunistic method to enter Extreme Immortal Sect will only reap what you sow. You're on your own. Go back to Extreme Immortal Sect and report yourself. Lu Chen finally let out a sigh of relief. In any case, he had entered Extreme Immortal Sect. But that guy said something about consummate skill or consummate skill. When did I use a skill? Chapter 552. The group of people followed the purple-robed man and left, leaving only Lu Chen behind. The purple-robed man's words gave everyone a new understanding of Lu Chen's ultimate move, and it wasn't as amazing as before. So he entered the Immortal Apex sect through trickery. That's a pretty good idea. Let's go to the bookstore and see if there are any similar techniques. It's okay if the move is stupid, as long as it does damage. Let's go to the bookstore. The surrounding audience dispersed in a hubbub. Only the delivery boy stayed there and quickly ran to Lu Chen. Bro, ignore them. They don't know shit. The delivery boy said mysteriously. This is called strategy. They're all here to enter the Immortal Apex sect. As long as they can enter, why can't they use this technique? Right, bro? Lu Chen had a feeling of speechlessness. That was just a normal attack. Whatever, they could say whatever they wanted. In any case, Lu Chen's purpose in going to the Immortal Apex sect was to clear an instance and exchange for exchange scrolls. Bro, you're a member of the Immortal Apex sect from now on. If you have anything good to sell, remember to tell me. I've been outside for 13 years and haven't entered the sect yet. Lu Chen smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Don't be discouraged. If I have anything I need to exchange, I'll come to you. Okay, thank you, bro. You should hurry back. They seem to be looking down on you and won't take you with them. Just follow this path and go to the registration area first. You can stay on the Immortal Apex Mountain in the future. Lu Chen nodded. Okay, see you later. Lu Chen walked up the mountain path and soon saw some buildings. No one stopped him, so he went to register and receive the beginner's resources. Lu Chen wanted to continue walking up, but he was stopped by the resource officer. Kid, don't go up. Outer sect disciples can't enter the inner mountain. Go to the residential area and familiarize yourself with your nest. Come back tomorrow to do your daily mission. Lu Chen turned around and walked towards the dormitory area. The Celestial Extremity Mountain covered a vast area. Even an outer disciple like Lu Chen had his own wooden house. It was much better than the City of Exiles. Lu Chen's house was simply furnished with a bed, a wardrobe, a table, and a chair. Opening the newcomer's package, there were bedding, bowls, chopsticks, 2 basins, and 3 sets of coarse gray robes. This kind of clothing was obviously made by a low-level tailor. It didn't have any attributes, but in the Apex Immortal sect, everyone had to wear the sect uniform. Only when they went out for a long time could they wear their own clothing. There was also a token inside the bag. It was the token of a disciple of the Extreme Immortal sect. Lu Chen saw that some of the disciples had it hanging on their waists. This should be my ID card. Lu Chen repeatedly looked at his wooden plaque, which had the words Outer Sect written on it. Other than that, there was also a map and a booklet in the package. Obtain Celestial Extremity Mountain Map. Synchronizing Personal Map. In the fourth heaven, the use of the system was getting smaller and smaller. Fortunately, the map function could still be used. The system quickly loaded the Celestial Extremity Mountain map into his personal map. Zooming in on the map, Lu Chen found that other than some buildings, there were also about 50 dungeons marked on the map. Each dungeon was numbered, and each dungeon had restrictions. There was no identity requirement to enter a dungeon. In theory, outer disciples could enter any dungeon, but each dungeon required a different sect contribution point. Dungeons 41 to 50 required 1 contribution point, dungeons 31 to 40 required 2 contribution points, and so on. In the inner mountains, there was a treasure exchange center. Lu Chen guessed that rare items such as attributes and items could be exchanged there. The booklet recorded the rules of the Apex Immortal sect. Fighting and martial arts were allowed here, but everyone had to actively contribute to the sect's development. There was also a special rule that forbade relationships in the sect. What the hell do you mean by forbade relationships? Lu Chen shook his head. The most important thing for the Apex Immortal sect was to increase the strength of the disciples and replenish the blood of the immortal army. Therefore, most of the booklet was about cultivation requirements. Although the Apex Immortal sect didn't interfere with the disciples' cultivation arrangements, they had to cultivate at least 8 hours a day. Cultivation methods included theory classes, training in the martial arts field, challenging dungeons, cultivating spiritual power in the spiritual power cultivation area, and so on. These areas all had a check-in system, and everyone's cultivation time was strictly limited. Outer disciples had to complete at least 1 daily task every day, which was to do odd jobs and so on. This was the most stable way to earn contribution points. In addition, the sect regularly held various competitions, including internal competitions and friendly competitions with other sections. Those who won would receive a lot of contribution points. The rewards for internal competitions were less, but the rewards for representing the Apex Immortal sect against other sects were usually very generous. The most important part was naturally the Immortal Army selection. The Immortal Army selection will be held once every 3 months. From today onwards, the rules of the Immortal Army selection will be adjusted. The selection method will be changed from internal selection to disciples of the Immortal Army selection. Disciples who win will be able to enter the Immortal Army selection. Lu Chen frowned slightly. He had heard that the disciples sent by the Apex Immortal sect didn't perform well recently. This was probably the reason why the rules were changed. The sect master's meaning was probably, "Fine, if you think the people I chose aren't good enough, then you can choose yourselves." The sect master of the Apex Immortal sect is also hot-tempered. Lu Chen smiled slightly. After gaining a general understanding of the Apex Immortal sect, Lu Chen washed up and went to bed. Night fell. Lying on the wooden bed, Lu Chen looked at the moon through the wooden window. I really didn't expect that I would actually come here to cultivate. It feels like I've really entered a cultivation sect. But the cultivation here should be different from the TV shows I've seen before. There were dungeons, there was extraction, there was damage, there was critical hit, there were debuffs and buffs, there were 9 professions. The so-called immortal cultivation of the 9 heavens was indeed different from the immortal cultivation that Lu Chen knew before. The extraction of 4th heaven should be far more than 100 points. Then I won't be in a hurry to go to 5th heaven. I'll fill up my stats first. It's best to extract Taishuo. I wonder how it feels to use Taishuo in real life. The Disciples' Handbook says that the first 7 days don't cost any guild contributions, but after that, it costs 1 guild contribution per day. So I have to get used to the Apex Immortal sect as soon as possible. Lu Chen had been in 4th heaven for a week. Although he still didn't know much about 4th heaven and had only seen the tip of the iceberg, he was gradually starting to get on the right track. Every time he reached a new heaven, it was a new adventure that he had to explore on his own. Lu Chen quite liked this feeling. His cultivation journey had officially begun. Lu Chen was a little excited. Mu Xian, mountain people, what heaven were you guys in before? I've just entered a cultivation sect, and you guys are already loose immortals. I didn't have any concept of cultivation levels before, but now I know a little, and I can't find you guys anymore. In a daze, Lu Chun made a wish. Causing trouble every day is definitely not my intention. I also want to rest. From today onwards, I, Lu Chen, will definitely not cause trouble or stand out. I'll just be an ordinary outer sect disciple. I'll grind dungeons, trade for items, and do missions. I'll just be a comfortable and relaxed student. I'm such a good person who stands aloof from worldly affairs. God bless me, please let my wish come true. Just as Lu Chen was about to fall asleep, his door was kicked open. You're 31 million with a single punch. Kid, we trained hard every day and spent a lot of money to enter the Apex Immortal sect. You actually used such an opportunistic method to sneak in, 31 million. You have the face to use such a flashy skill. Kid, from now on, you have to help us complete our daily missions. Otherwise, we'll beat you up every day until even your parents won't recognize you. Lu Chen opened his eyes slightly. There were more than 10 fierce-looking people at the door. He felt like they were about to rush in and beat him up. Lu Chen frowned and shook his head. My wish has been shattered a little too quickly. Chapter 553. After recovering from his serious injuries, Lu Chen fought his way from the second celestial layer all the way to the fourth celestial layer. Lu Chen really planned to stop for a while and live a leisurely life. However, reality was always so cruel. He didn't look for trouble, but this time, trouble came looking for him. The dozen or so outer sect disciples heard about Lu Chen's test process from somewhere and were quite dissatisfied with his opportunistic way of entering the immortal sect. Lu Chen sat up and frowned as he looked at the dozen or so people. I say, are you guys really full of righteousness, or are you guys just looking for a newcomer to do things for you? Kid, you don't even call me senior brother. I think you're really arrogant. Looking at your sloppy appearance, I can tell that you're a troublemaker. We've seen a lot of newcomers like you. Which one of them isn't arrogant when they first arrive? Kid, remember this is the fourth heaven. Don't talk nonsense with him. Look at his unconvinced face. Beat him until he's convinced. Humph, 31 million. Alright, your grandpa wants to experience your secret art. Come, let's see if you can even touch a strand of grandpa's hair. Lu Chen sighed. It seemed like these people were used to bullying others. But speaking of which, could he let others do the daily missions? If that was the case, he seemed to have found some decent migrant workers. Go, beat him to death. The group of people was about to swarm up when Lu Chen jumped out of the window. So it's a coward. Unfortunately, you want to escape from Grandpa's hands? Dream on. Lightning speed. 1,000 miles journey. Everyone revealed their identities and quickly caught up with Lu Chen. Lu Chen stopped in front of a remote forest. Seeing that the dozen or so people were about to catch up, Lu Chen sneered. Splitting Mount Hua. With a boom, the people in the outer sect area who were still sleeping were awakened by the loud noise. Is Big Brother Wrist educating newcomers again? I wonder which unlucky person is going to work for free again. Brother Wrist and his gang have earned quite a lot of sect contributions with this. Sigh, it's better not to meddle in other people's business. We can't afford to offend them. The extreme immortal sect didn't forbid disciples from fighting. As long as they didn't use physical damage skills, no one would care. This was exactly what Lu Chen wanted. Originally, the 9 dragon pillars of heavenly punishment's mountain-splitting strike could ignore all movement skills below the heaven rank. These people's movement skills were directly crippled. In addition, they did not expect that guy to turn around and use the club. The group of people were hit by the club. The tree wants to be still, but the wind won't stop. Sigh. Lu Chen shook his head. You want to beat me to death? Sure, you like to fight with more people, right? Demon Doppelganger. Demon Kings will refresh. Demon Doppelganger. More than 30 doppelgangers swarmed toward the group of people. Adjust the ratio with force, 1/10. Give him a good beating. With 3 or 4 doppelgangers against one person and 5 consecutive attacks, these people would not be able to wake up. As Lu Chen had adjusted the ratio of force, the doppelganger's damage wasn't too high. Each attack only dealt a few tens of thousands of damage. This way, the battle that could have been finished in a few seconds suddenly became a battle of attrition. Ouch! It hurts. Stop, I'll kill you when I wake up. Why is there no end to the doppelganger passive effect? Despicable, you actually lowered the ratio of force on purpose to torture us. Ah! Ah! You're lying. 1/10 of the force can't cause such high damage. My defense is very good. Lu Chen shook his head. To be able to wake up from the continuous attacks of 3 doppelgangers, the chances were very, very low. In addition, Lu Chen's main body was still squatting at the side, so they couldn't wake up from the stun. This group of people had around 10 million HP. As a human, this amount of HP was not bad. Half an hour later, Bro Wrist and the others were lying on the ground, wailing. Lu Chen didn't use any physical damage skills, but this kind of long-term punishment with a pain system was enough for them to endure. One of the brawny men was rolling on the ground and wailing while cursing, "Don't your doppelgangers have a cooldown? Why do you keep being stunned? Why do you keep being stunned? If you give me a chance, I'll make sure you regret it. How dare you touch me, kid, remember this. If you don't kill me today, I'll kill you tomorrow." At this moment, Lu Chen walked in front of him with a strangely shaped black and white double sword. Without saying anything, he raised his sword and cut off the man's arms. "You really don't want face. I only wanted to teach you a lesson, but you better watch your mouth. Say one more word and I'll kill you, do you believe me?" The wailing around them suddenly quieted down. The others looked at the young man in shock. At first, they thought he was easy to bully, but now they realized that they were wrong, very wrong. This guy's cruelty was 10 times or even 100 times worse than theirs. Not only did he beat him up for half an hour, he also cut off Bro Wrist's arms without saying anything. He didn't even ask if Bro Wrist had a backer. He didn't even ask for Bro Wrist's name. This was too crazy. Since Bro Wrist's arms were cut off, the others didn't dare to make a sound. They were afraid of attracting the attention of this fiend, so they could only endure the pain. Even Bro Wrist wasn't as weak as before. He displayed amazing perseverance and didn't make a sound even after his arms were cut off. He didn't dare to make a sound. That guy said that if he made another sound, he would kill him. If it was someone else, he might not believe it, but he had to believe it now. This guy was a madman. He directly ignored the rules of Ultimate Immortal Sect and heavily injured his body. Lu Chen sat on Bro Wrist's stomach while Bro Wrist lay on the ground, not daring to move. Lu Chen kept his limitless sword and said faintly, "The few of you, come over here. Big brother, we have eyes but failed to recognize empty tie. We don't dare anymore. Please, don't cripple our bodies. If our bodies are heavily injured, we won't even be able to do our daily missions and will be expelled soon. Yes, big brother. We were wrong. Please let us go." Lu Chen frowned and looked at Bro Wrist who was under his butt. Bro Wrist cried when Lu Chen looked at him, "Woo, you don't play by the rules, you said that you can't use skills that injure the body." Lu Chen frowned, "Why are you crying? It's just 2 arms. I don't believe that a bully like you doesn't have any savings. Just change it to a body regeneration pill and you'll be fine. All of you, come over here. Whoever dares to make excuses, I'll turn you into human rods." The moment the human rods came out, those 10 people were so scared that their faces were as white as ghosts under the moonlight. They scrambled and crawled in front of Lu Chen. "Big brother, don't cut, we really don't dare anymore." Lu Chen coldly snorted, "I just came here and I already met you guys who bully the weak and fear the strong. I still want to have a few days of peace. How about this? From tomorrow onwards, you guys will help me complete the daily missions I accept. I will accept 60 missions a day. Each of you will help me complete 4 of them." "Ah. 60. Big brother, this isn't good. Isn't this too much of a bully?" "Yes, big brother. We are looking for newcomers to help us complete the mission. We can only do 1 mission a day. You want us to do 4 missions a day. You're even more ruthless than us. This is blatant exploitation." Lu Chen gave him a slap and snappily said, "Nonsense, of course I know this is exploitation. Whoever refuses to accept this, I will beat them up every time I see them. After beating them up during the day, I will help you to turn them into rods at night." Everyone sucked in a mouthful of cold air. They used to be the bullies here, but what kind of ghost did they provoke today? Chapter 554. The next day, Lu Chen went to pick up daily missions early in the morning. "Hey, newbie, you're picking up so many missions in one go. Are you picking up all of this month's missions?" Lu Chen smiled. "No, I'm finishing them today." Lu Chen squeezed out of the crowd with a smile and saw Brother Wrist and a dozen other people waiting for him dejectedly. "These are my missions for today. You can distribute them among yourselves. You'll be in charge. If there's a mission that isn't completed at night, I don't need to tell you the consequences, right?" Brother Wrist suddenly quivered. Yes. Boss, we know. Our disciple tokens are all with you. We can't run away even if we want to. Please rest assured, boss. These 60 missions will definitely be completed beautifully for you." Brother Wrist's arm had already grown back. It seemed like he had exchanged for the flesh regeneration pill. Lu Chen nodded with satisfaction. "Go." Before Brother Wrist and the others returned, Lu Chen had yet to contribute. He could only return to his room to cultivate his spiritual power. When it came to cultivating spiritual power, many people actually misunderstood one thing. That was that the 9 dragon pillars of heaven punishment were not the most valuable treasure of the heaven punishment tower. The real treasure was the mixed yuan cultivation method. The 9 dragon pillars were just the weapon of the wishful staff after it was upgraded at the Heavenly Works creation platform. It was considered a gift. Unfortunately, the mixed yuan cultivation method required a spiritual energy of 100,000 to start cultivating. Leveling up did not increase one's spiritual energy. That meant that even if Lu Chen had dual body Heaven's Wrath and increased the level limit by 100%, his spiritual energy was still the same as before. It was only 70,000. I still have 27,000 points to start cultivating the mixed yuan cultivation method. Lu Chen suddenly thought of Little Green. "Little Green, can you refine the spiritual energy immortal pill formula that you got last time?" "Boss, I can, but I'm just an 8-star alchemist. If I want to refine the spiritual energy immortal pill, the success rate is very low. Even with the mixed yuan medicine cauldron, it's only 5%. Also, boss, I don't have the ingredients for the immortal pill. They're all extremely rare herbs." Lu Chen nodded. The immortal pill was obviously not that easy to refine, so there was no need to rush it. "I don't know if there are any that are less effective. I can add a few dozen points each time, boss. Do you want to take a look at the exchange market? I think there must be some pills in the 4th layer of heaven that can increase spiritual power." Lu Chen shook his head. Outer sect disciples can only go to the inner mountain once a week. We'll wait for a few days before we go and take a look. There's no rush. It seemed that it would take some time before he could go to the inner mountains. Lu Chen could only follow the prescribed routine and complete his daily training schedule. After 8 hours of cultivation, Brother Wrist and the others still hadn't returned. Lu Chen took out a map from his backpack. This map was the one that Frost Dance had given him. "Aren't you going to synchronize the system?" Unable to identify the map, Lu Chen frowned. He was already at the 4th celestial layer, but he still couldn't identify it. It seemed like this place wasn't easy to find. In the evening, Brother Wrist and the others finally dragged their tired bodies back. From afar, they saw Lu Chen sitting at the door drinking tea and hurriedly rushed over. "Boss, the mission is complete. The things we need to buy and the consignment items have all been settled." As they spoke, they handed the mission items to Lu Chen. Lu Chen's mission tracking all showed "mission completed." Lu Chen nodded. "You must be tired. Go back and rest. We'll continue tomorrow." Brother Wrist and the others took a deep breath. Boss, are we continuing tomorrow?" Lu Chen nodded. "Of course. It's taboo to give up halfway. We have to contribute to the sect every day. Otherwise, wouldn't the sect's contributions be cut off?" Brother Wrist and the others' expressions stiffened. "That's right. It's taboo to give up halfway. But you accepted the mission and asked us to do it." Of course, they could only hold back their opinions. This person was too scary when he was ruthless. Boss, can we reduce the number of missions? We complete 4 daily missions every day. It's already very late when we come back from outside. We still have to complete the daily cultivation mission. There's not enough time." Lu Chen thought for a moment and nodded. "What you said makes sense. I can understand your difficulties. How about this? I'll accept 600 missions every day." The group of people almost vomited blood. This was the result of understanding their difficulties. Lu Chen continued, "You don't have to be afraid. I won't let you do all 600 missions. I heard that there are many small groups like you in the outer sect who like to make others work for them. These people are especially disgusting." Brother Wrist almost couldn't help but shout. "Aren't you like that? And you've done this business to the extreme." Brother Wrist, bring me to their boss. I'm going to recruit them. One more person means one more person to share the mission. It's up to you how many you can find." Brother Wrist rolled his eyes. If he could pull people from other small groups over, it would be much easier for 600 people to do 600 missions together. The most important thing was that it was time for those who laughed at him today to have a taste of their own medicine. The next day, Lu Chen followed Brother Wrist and began to sweep through the outer sect area. Lu Chen wasn't sure how long the Immortal Peak sect had been around. Anyway, there were thousands of outer sect disciples. Many of them were like Brother Wrist in the past. They formed groups and bullied others. They forced others to do the daily missions for them while they collected the sect contributions. There were about a dozen such groups. Some were big and some were small. Brother Wrist's group was relatively small with a total of 15 people. The others had dozens or even hundreds of people. The total number of people was around 400 to 500 people. Within 2 days, the entire outer mountain area was filled with wailing and begging for mercy. An ordinary-looking young man wiped out all the small groups in the outer sect in 1 day. The number of his subordinates soared to 566 people. Lu Chen gave his small group a name, Mutual Aid Group. It meant that in his group, everyone would help each other and help him complete the daily missions. Brother Wrist and the other leaders almost vomited blood when they heard this explanation. However, when they thought of that guy's cruel methods, they could only swallow their anger. From the day the Mutual Aid Group was established, Lu Chen began to accept 566 daily missions every day. He could earn a few hundred sect contributions a day. A week later, Lu Chen already had a few thousand sect contributions. He was about to exchange them for something when he was informed that the inner mountain was temporarily closed to the outside world. No way. How long will it be closed for? The disciple said impatiently, how would I know? Anyway, the inner mountain is now closed. No outer sect disciples are allowed to enter. We'll inform you when it reopens. Lu Chen looked in the direction of the inner mountain. There seemed to be some fighting sounds coming from inside. Could there be some competition going on inside? Many outer sect disciples were stopped outside. It seemed that there was something going on inside. Lu Chen could only leave gloomily. A month later, the inner mountain was still closed. But gradually, in the outer mountain region, a name became a topic that people couldn't avoid talking about. Solipsistic's mutual aid group has come down the mountain again. Damn, it's so grand. Even doing a daily mission is so scary. Hey, do you guys think that Solipsistic is a good person or a bad person? I heard that he's very harsh on his subordinates. He always wants to turn them into human sticks. However, he doesn't seem to find trouble with others. Those people he recruited were all people who bullied others in the past. He's very kind to everyone else. I heard that too. He doesn't put on airs with ordinary people. Also, after he came, did you guys notice that other than his group, no other group forced others to do missions? Actually, I feel that he's very low-key. How strong is he? It's said that he hasn't participated in a single martial arts competition. Some people even say that his strongest move can't hit anyone at all. However, he can subdue all the small groups. It seems unrealistic that he doesn't have any strength. Hey, don't ask. Anyway, whether that guy is good or bad, he's definitely a ruthless person. Don't provoke such a ruthless person. Right now, he's the biggest underground boss of the extreme immortal sect. You definitely can't provoke him. Don't talk like he's invincible. Let me tell you, a tall tree attracts the wind. Why didn't the previous groups have more than 100 people? The inner sect disciples are still watching. Now that Solipsistic's mutual aid group has expanded to 500 people, I'm guessing that someone is going to target them. The inner sect disciples don't have time to care about our matters right now. An insider suddenly said, I heard that another sect wants to annex our extreme immortal sect. Right now, all the inner sect disciples are urgently preparing for war. Annex? Really? And, otherwise, why would the inner sect be closed for so long? It's to deal with this huge change. Let's hope that they can withstand it. Once they're annexed, our original contributions will all be reset to zero. Not far away, a certain person's eyes were filled with shock. He had worked so hard for more than a month to earn just over 10,000 contributions. Was it going to be reset to zero? Chapter 555. After hearing that the extreme immortal sect was going to be annexed, Lu Chen wasn't in the mood to accept missions every day. He had earned quite a lot of sect contributions, but he couldn't spend them now. It would be such a waste if they were to be reset to zero. Half a month later, Lu Chen woke up early. As soon as he opened the door, he realized that the atmosphere was off. Not long after, the outer sect disciples in charge were running around in a hurry. Everyone, gather at the practice field. Don't do your daily routines or cultivate today. Go to the practice field. This group of people looked panicked as they knocked on the door one by one. Someone went to the school to report to someone. It seemed that the matter was urgent. One of the mission officers saw Lu Chen. Normally, Lu Chen would accept hundreds of missions at a time, so the two could be considered acquaintances. That person hurriedly ran over. Brother, you have a lot of subordinates. Can you help? Tell your people to spread the word and have all the outer sect disciples gather at the practice field in the inner mountains. Lu Chen pulled that person back. What happened? Hey, the people from the outer sect are here. It's a big group. It's too sudden, so the higher-ups want us to gather all the disciples at the practice field. Lu Chen frowned. Are there a lot of people from the outer sect? Not many, but there are many sections. I saw a few famous experts come with their sections. Hey, I don't know why they're not letting go of our extreme immortal sect. It seemed that the mission officer's knowledge was limited. However, Lu Chen already knew that the people from the outer sect were here. Brother Wrist and a group of people stood in front of Lu Chen's house. Boss, do we still have to do missions? This group of people was usually arrogant, but after being disciplined by Lu Chen for more than a month, they were now very obedient. Lu Chen glared at them. Do you still need to ask? Go, have your subordinates help them spread the word. Then go to the practice field. After being in the extreme immortal sect for so long, this was the first time Lu Chen entered the inner mountains. It was said that the inner sect disciples of the extreme immortal sect had a systematic training method, unlike the outer sect disciples who were completely free. From the outer mountain to the inner mountain, there were many inner sect disciples standing by the side of the road. The entire inner mountain was heavily guarded. At this time, there was probably no one in the exchange store, so Lu Chen obediently followed the crowd to the training field. At this moment, a tall ring was erected in the training field. On the east side of the arena was the rostrum, which was at the same level as the arena. At this moment, there were several hundred people standing on it. The innermost, western, and northern sides were filled with apex immortal sect's inner disciples. On the southern side, there were several groups of disciples dressed in different attire. They seemed to be disciples from other sections. The number of outer sect disciples was the highest, and they stood at the outermost perimeter. At this moment, an old man dressed in golden clothes was standing in the huge arena. It was unknown if the golden clothes had any attributes, but it was definitely eye-catching enough. The old man looked below the arena, then at the people on the rostrum. Seeing that the other side gave him a signal, he said, I see that most of the people are here. Now, let me make the announcement. I am an elder of the Human Race United Front Alliance. In view of the extreme immortal sect's performance in the immortal army for the past 3 years, we believe that the extreme immortal sect's management and training are too lax. They are unable to provide strong new blood for the immortal army. Since that is the case, we will consider whether to merge the extreme immortal sect. Of course, in order to merge the extreme immortal sect, we must first prove our strength. According to our old rules, the sect that wants to merge the extreme immortal sect must send 5 disciples. The extreme immortal sect must also send 5 disciples. It will be a one-on-one battle. In other words, each disciple is not limited to the number of battles they can fight until they are defeated. The final winner will have the right to speak. Currently, there are 12 sects that want to merge the extreme immortal sect. The extreme immortal sect must send out 60 disciples to fight. If more sects win, they will have to fight again to determine which sect the extreme immortal sect will merge with. Lu Chen frowned. The United Front Alliance's decision seemed to give the extreme immortal sect a way out. However, 12 sects had come at once. Each sect had sent out 5 of their strongest disciples, but the extreme immortal sect had to send out 60 people. Besides, the reason the extreme immortal sect was merged was because the disciples were too weak. In this situation, no matter what schemes they had, they would not work. They would definitely lose. It was no wonder that the other sects had brought so many people. They were thinking that after taking down the Limitless sect, they would have to compete with the other sects for the final ownership. Lu Chen looked back at Brother Wrist. Hey, if we get merged, won't we lose all our sect contributions? Brother Wrist hurriedly replied, Big brother, you saw it too. Our sect contributions are extreme immortal sect contributions. We can only exchange for things at the extreme immortal sect's exchange shop. If we change our sect contributions will be useless. Big brother, sect contributions are a small matter. If we really get merged, we might even be dismissed. It's fine for inner sect disciples to become outer sect disciples, but we might have to say goodbye. The person beside Brother Wrist said, I heard that the outer sect disciples of other sects have to complete at least 5 daily missions every day. It's a mandatory rule. In order to cultivate inner sect disciples, they use outer sect disciples as laborers. That's not too much. I heard that their outer sect disciples have a special exchange shop. They can only exchange for trash. And we cultivate for 8 hours a day here. That's more than enough time. Moreover, our exchange shop treats all inner and outer sect disciples equally. We still have hope here. If we go to other sects, we'll be outer sect disciples for life. It was only at this time that everyone realized the benefits of their predecessors. Lu Chen's frown deepened. The reason why the extreme immortal sect didn't perform well might be related to this strategy. The other sects spent all their energy on their top disciples, but the extreme immortal sect gave everyone a chance. It was just that this way, when the top disciples were compared, the difference was obvious. They were like two businessmen. One was profit-driven, while the other had a conscience. Perhaps the profit-driven one would earn more money. No matter what, Lu Chen's heart ached the most for his sect contributions. His 18,000 sect contributions were all useless. What the hell? The people of the United Front Alliance got off the stage. At this time, the sect leader of the extreme immortal sect teleported onto the stage. It was Lu Chen's first time seeing the sect leader of the extreme immortal sect. This person's ID was Nantian. He was a middle-aged man with a well-proportioned body. He wore a white robe and had an extraordinary aura. When this person got on the stage, he bowed deeply to all the disciples of the extreme immortal sect. I, Nantian, have let down the sect leaders of the extreme immortal sect and all the disciples of the extreme immortal sect. I don't deserve to be the sect leader of the extreme immortal sect. The disciples of the extreme immortal sect were silent. Only the disciples of the other sects were still chatting and laughing. Nantian stood up straight and looked below the stage. But I don't regret it. The human race on the front line is in imminent danger. This situation has been going on for hundreds of years. I've thought about why we can't defeat the enemy. Perhaps it's because of our racial talents. We humans are physically weak, but we have the advantage in numbers. Wave after wave, we may still be able to fight. The immortal army needs top powerhouses. This is true. Weak people will only die on the battlefield. However, where do top powerhouses come from? Talent, family nurture, personal encounters, and so on can all create talent. But what is the mission of the extreme immortal sect? Is it to provide these so-called geniuses with unlimited resources? In my opinion, only by giving all the disciples a chance to become strong can we truly form an invincible army of the human race. Everyone is a soldier. Together, wave after wave, this is the only way out for the human race. Our 10 billion people are all dragons and tigers. Why should we fear the foreign races? Unfortunately, I don't have time. My plan has failed in the end. Chapter 556. Today is the day of our extreme immortal sect's survival. I have already chosen 60 of our strongest disciples to fight for our extreme immortal sect. No matter what the result is, I hope that all of you who were once members of our extreme immortal sect will remember that these people fought for you. Let's begin. With that, Nantian teleported back to the rostrum. Lu Chen glanced at Nantian from afar. At this time, although Nantian tried his best to appear calm, anyone could imagine how torturous his mood was at the moment. The first group to fight was the Blue Cloud sect. There were 5 of them in green robes. Then, the Immortal Peak sect also sent 5 people to fight. The two sides stood on both sides of the arena. After a short discussion, they decided on the order of their fights. Seeing these two groups of people, the audience began to discuss. The first fight is the Blue Cloud sect. They are trying to intimidate us. What intimidating? Do you think we still have a chance to win? Out of the 12 matches, we can't lose even a single match to protect our immortal Apex sect. They've only chosen the 5 strongest people from their sect. Our top 60 against their 12 top 5. Even though they have the same number of people, their quality is on a completely different level. Can't we let the top 10 fight a few more fights? Are you kidding? They are all in the top 5 and are stronger than us. It's not easy to win one fight. Do you think they can fight a few more fights? Stop talking and watch the fight. This may be the last fight for our sect. The first fight had already begun. You didn't let your senior brother fight? The first person to fight from the Blue Cloud sect was Li. He raised his chin slightly and looked at his opponent. So, you want to give up this fight? We don't need my senior brother to fight against the Blue Cloud sect. If you want to take over the Immortal Peak sect, you have to get through me first. Li sneered. You are not worthy. Spirit summoning, demon god Qiyu. With a boom, a huge figure suddenly appeared in the arena. It was the legendary war god Qiyu. Lu Chen's eyes widened. This guy summoned Qiyu. Jussi and the others had summoned Quafu once, but due to the rules of the first layer of heaven, Quafu was unable to unleash his full strength and was defeated by Bone King. However, Bone King was a rare boss that could break through dungeons. Quafu was more than enough to deal with an ordinary player. Was this the strength of a late-stage spirit controller? This class that had been suppressed by the other class advancement path, Beast Tamer, was actually so terrifying. It seemed like the 9 professions were all in the later stages of development, and all of them had considerable strength. The battle on the field was intense. The first person from the extreme immortal sect to go up was a martial monk. He wasn't weak. He had the 3000 worlds barrier and had many negative statuses. However, the monk had to get close to the opponent, but the opponent had Qiyu guarding, and his defense was impregnable. After dozens of exchanges, the monk couldn't get close at all. Instead, Qiyu took advantage of his weakness and used a series of skills to finish him off. Li stood beside the giant Qiyu. He raised his chin slightly and sneered, "The strength of your limitless sect should be like this. Such a sect still occupies such a good spiritual source. It is simply a waste of God's gift. Other than your eldest senior brother who has some fighting strength, the others are a bunch of trash. I can't be bothered to waste my breath on you. Next, come up and die." Li was quite strong. Not only could he summon Qiyu, but he could also summon Xing Tian. After 3 rounds, he was unscathed and defeated 3 people in a row. When the third person was defeated again, there was already a commotion below the stage. Everyone from the Limitless sect had heavy expressions as they shook their heads and sighed. This is too strong. Is the Azure Cloud sect so terrifying? Oh my god, this is called a martial arts competition. This is clearly a slaughter. The first team can't even defeat one person, right? In comparison, the disciples from other sects didn't have it easy either. Li is indeed very strong. After we take down the extreme immortal sect, we have to find someone to suppress him. This guy is actually unscathed. The Qiyu demon god is both offensive and defensive, and has his own battle intent barrier. It is very difficult to get close to Li's main body. Moreover, that guy also has Xing Tian. If the 2 demon gods attack at the same time, it will indeed be troublesome. As expected of the top 3 in the Azure Cloud sect's arena. I think only the Immortal Sword sect and the Sunset Peak can suppress that guy. Looks like the Extreme Immortal sect will eventually be merged into the Azure Cloud sect, Immortal Sword sect, and Sunset Peak sect. I just don't know who will take it down in the end. Do you guys think the Extreme Immortal sect has any hope of winning this round? Perhaps their goal is to win this round. That's why their eldest senior brother and the strongest few don't want to fight a strong team like the Azure Cloud sect. The competition continued. When Jiu Li was at full health, he actually went down himself. He said that he wanted to give his junior brothers and sisters a chance to practice, but even Jiu Li's junior brothers and sisters were quite strong. In the end, they defeated all 5 from the Limitless sect and won the first round. Lu Chen shook his head. The first round had already announced that the Extreme Immortal sect would be annexed. Now, the other sects were waiting to see who would take down the Extreme Immortal sect. As for the Extreme Immortal sect disciples, they were fighting with their last breaths. The Extreme Immortal sect lost 7 rounds in a row. The 8th round was between the Extreme Immortal sect and the Green Pine Mountain. Behind them, Brother Wrist was especially excited. Its eldest senior brother, second senior brother, and third senior sister. They're finally going up. The Green Pine Mountain strength isn't as strong as the other sections. Now that we've sent out our strongest team, we finally have a chance of winning this round. The Extreme Immortal sect can't be protected anymore. Now, we only hope to win this round. The eldest senior brother of the Extreme Immortal sect was wearing a purple robe. This was the symbol of an inner disciple. He was Nanshan's disciple and was the strongest in the Extreme Immortal sect. He had been in first place in the arena for many years. The other 5 people on the stage were also in the top 5 of the arena. The 5 strongest people of the Extreme Immortal sect officially went up the stage. However, when this team that carried all the hopes of the Extreme Immortal sect went up the stage, Lu Chen noticed a small detail. The eldest senior brother, Huayu, actually nodded slightly to the other party, and the other party also nodded back. This small action didn't arouse suspicion. Could it be because the eldest senior brother was low-key and modest? As soon as the round started, the eldest senior brother stepped forward and cupped his fists. I, Huayu, admit defeat for this round. As soon as these words came out, the audience gasped. What? The eldest senior brother admitted defeat? What's going on? He's our last hope. Why did he admit defeat? What's going on? Eldest senior brother, don't admit defeat. If you lose, not only will our Extreme Immortal sect be destroyed, we'll also be ridiculed by others. In a battle of life and death, we didn't even win a single round. Our Extreme Immortal sect will become a laughingstock, and we, Huayu turned to look at the crowd, then cupped her fists towards Nantian, Master, martial uncles, martial brothers and sisters, my strength used to be mediocre. After receiving Master's guidance, I improved by leaps and bounds. Only then did my potential truly come into play. But from now on, I have to be like everyone else. Every day, I have to cultivate and attend classes. Our Extreme Immortal sect clearly has so many resources, but they don't give them to me. My strength has been delayed again and again. The more Huayu spoke, the more agitated she became. Her eyes were filled with resentment. Why does an expert like me have to be like everyone else? Why can't Master give all the resources to me alone? If I could be like the other elite disciples and enjoy more resources, how could our Extreme Immortal sect be so mediocre in the Immortal Army? Why do I have to compete with a bunch of trash for resources? Lu Chen frowned slightly. This guy was his senior brother. It seemed that the story of Extreme Immortal sect was very interesting. He looked towards the rostrum. At this moment, Nantian, who had been silent all this time, was trembling slightly. He took half a step back and only fell because someone supported him. With such a disciple, he was probably completely disappointed. However, the Extreme Immortal sect was already gone. No one could say anything about Huayu's public betrayal. Not only did Huayu betray herself, but she also brought her junior brothers and sisters with her. This group of people directly surrendered. The strongest 5 people directly surrendered. The rest of the competition was even less suspenseful. Although those disciples still fought with all their might, the difference in strength was too great. After 12 rounds, the Extreme Immortal sect was completely wiped out. It's over. The Extreme Immortal sect is gone. Boss, we're all going to become homeless people. Brother Wrist's eyes were filled with hopelessness. Lu Chen frowned slightly. Was his sect contributions really going to be gone? More than 10,000 sect contributions. If they were thrown into the water, there would still be a splash. If they were gone just like that, this was really intolerable. Chapter 557. The 60 experts of Extreme Immortal sect were all annihilated. Eldest senior brother even colluded with the other sects and surrendered. This time, Extreme Immortal sect suffered a crushing defeat. The elder from the human race united front went up the stage again. He glanced at the pale Nan Tian. That guy's heart had probably given up. No matter what, the result was obvious. Everyone, Extreme Immortal sect lost all 12 matches. Nan Tian, your inner sect disciples no longer have the right to participate. From now on, there will be no more Extreme Immortal sect in the fourth layer of heaven. Do you have any objections? Nan Tian was in a daze. He lost the match and lost his faith. At this moment, he was completely disheartened. How could he have any objections? Elder Chen Shi, I have no objections. Nan Tian said helplessly. Elder Chen Shi looked at all the Extreme Immortal sect disciples below the stage. From today onwards, Extreme Immortal sect will be merged. You will also be included in the new sect. All your past in the sect will be cleared. Next, all the sects, please choose your candidates for the final competition. Each team will have 5 people. Wait. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out from below the stage. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice. A young man wearing a gray robe squeezed out from the crowd and walked towards the stage. What's going on? Who is that guy? He seems to be an outer sect disciple of Extreme Immortal sect. I wonder what he wants to do at this time. The elders of Extreme Immortal sect, including Nan Tian, were all stunned. They didn't know why this person stood out. Hey, what are you doing? Elder Chen Shi frowned and looked at that person. The person who walked out was Lu Chen. He stood below the stage and said loudly, I don't agree with the merger of Extreme Immortal sect. The moment these words came out, the entire stage almost exploded. What? That guy doesn't agree with the merger? What does that mean? Are you kidding me? An outer sect disciple actually dares to say that he doesn't agree with the merger. What right does he have to speak here? Is Extreme Immortal sect so unruly? What's the meaning of an outer sect disciple jumping out at such an important occasion? On the main stage, an outer sect leader said coldly, Kid, do you know what kind of occasion this is? You're just an outer sect disciple. Do you think you have the right to speak? Get the hell out of here. Lu Chen frowned as he looked at the person who spoke. Looking at his attire, he seemed to be the Qin Yun sect leader. Lu Chen coldly snorted, as if he hadn't heard anything, and leaped onto the stage. As soon as he got on the stage, Lu Chen sighed as he looked at the crowd below. Sigh, I promised to be a quiet student, but I didn't even have the chance to fulfill such a simple request. Is it so difficult to live a peaceful life? There was no other way. For the sake of more than 10,000 sect contributions, he could only go up on stage. Elder Chen Shi, you just said that the inner disciples no longer have the right to challenge, right? Elder Chen Shi sized up the young man. Other than his bright eyes, there was nothing special about him. That's right. You've already weighed the pros and cons when you were selecting the candidates. You've lost all 12 matches, so naturally, you don't have the right to challenge anyone else. Lu Chen nodded. Oh, then since I'm an outer sect disciple, do I have the right to challenge you? The foreign sect formation burst into wild laughter. Ha ha ha, did you hear what he said? An outer sect disciple wants to challenge the sect's top experts. Ha 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 ha, I'm dying of laughter. Hey, kid, don't you think your Immortal Peaks sect has lost enough face? You've lost all 12 matches, and eldest senior brother led the rebellion. Now, it's even funnier. An outer sect disciple wants to go up on stage to challenge you. Kid, don't tell me you want to challenge 60 experts by yourself. Don't waste time, hurry up and get off the stage. At this moment, Brother Wrist and the rest of Lu Chen's subordinates were all dumbfounded as they looked at Lu Chen on stage. Damn, that guy actually went up on stage. He wants to challenge them. Beat him to death. Who asked him to abuse us like that? Actually, I used to hate him a lot, but now that the Immortal Peaks sect is about to be destroyed, he still dares to go up on stage. At least I admire his courage. Brother Wrist shook his head. Indeed, for him to stand up at this time, I, Iron Wrist, admire him. On the rostrum, it was unknown which elder or sect leader spoke up again. Ignorant kid, even your sect leader has no objections. You, an outer sect disciple, want to overturn the heavens. Get off the stage, you don't have the right to speak here. Indeed, a bunch of undisciplined idiots. Wait till you merge with our Immortal Sword sect, then I'll let you know what rules are. Lu Chen didn't care about what the others said. He only looked at Elder Chen Shi. Elder, don't care about what they say. I just want to ask you, is what I said reasonable or not? Chen Shi frowned. Outer sect disciples were usually anonymous. Therefore, when the rules were set, the opinions of the outer sect disciples weren't considered. Kid, I know you have resentment in your heart. The rules do state that only inner sect disciples and above can challenge. However, there's no point in you finding loopholes in the rules. The reason why outer sect disciples are outer sect disciples is because your strength isn't enough to enter the inner sect. Even inner sect disciples were defeated. Tell me, what else do you want to challenge? Moreover, your Immortal Peaks sect lost all 12 times. Don't tell me you want to challenge the 60 strongest people from each sect. Kid, get off the stage. Don't waste our time. Lu Chen heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he found a loophole. Elder Chen Shi, you guys have always emphasized on following the rules. Since the rules didn't state that outer sect disciples are not allowed to challenge, that means that I have the right to challenge. Lu Chen smiled. As for the outcome of the competition and how I can challenge the 60 strongest experts, you don't have to worry about that. Lu Chen turned around and looked at the outer sect disciples. He then looked at the main stage and said loudly. I, an outer sect disciple of Immortal Peaks sect, don't agree with you guys annexing Immortal Peaks sect. Aren't you guys very strong? You can't be afraid of me, an outer sect disciple, right? Don't tell me you guys don't even dare to accept my challenge. Sigh, you guys look so fierce, but you're all cowards. If you guys are afraid and think that your disciples aren't my match, you can come up the stage yourselves. I'll accept all of your challenges. Being challenged by an outer sect disciple and scolded as a coward, the various sect leaders' faces darkened. Bastard! A mere outer sect trash dares to talk to us like that. If it weren't for my status as a sect leader, I wouldn't have torn your mouth apart. Arrogant! A sect leader shouted angrily. Good, you want to stand out? Sure. You want to fight 60 people by yourself? Why don't you accept his challenge? 60 people will take turns to go up the stage and teach this arrogant guy a lesson. Let him know the price of speaking without thinking. The Qin Yun sect leader said, Kid, you better think it through. We have rules for inner sect disciples to fight. We can't injure the body. But you also know that outer sect disciples have never challenged each other before. The rules also don't have any rules for outer sect disciples. So if you anger us like this, the consequences will be very serious. Lu Chen snorted. You guys don't have rules, but I do. If you want to fight with me, then I'll fight with you too. If someone uses a technique that injures the body, then I'm sorry, I'll send you back to your mother's womb. Master, accept his challenge. We must make this unruly bastard pay the price. You dare to insult my master, but it's not convenient for my master to make a move. Then let me personally torture you to death. Yes. Master, accept his challenge. I'll teach this arrogant kid a lesson later. The various sects were all excited, but Lu Chen didn't care. His goal was to anger these people and make them accept his challenge. Chen Shi looked at the situation. Right now, it seemed like no one was against this outer sect disciples' challenge. The people involved didn't care, so he naturally didn't care either. After thinking for a while, Chen Shi said, Qinyan sect leader Kanchan's words make sense. Kid, you're not challenging a sect, you're challenging the rules. So, you have to fight 60 people at the same time. As long as you lose, no matter which one you lose, the 12 sects will still fight for the ownership of the Extreme Immortal Sect. If you win against those 60 people, then the Extreme Immortal Sect will not be merged. Lu Chen shrugged his shoulders. I only want a chance to challenge. As for the specific rules, you guys do as you please. Chapter 558. I've never seen such an arrogant person. He's just an outer sect disciple and yet he's so arrogant. I can't wait to teach him a lesson. Kill him. Let me be the first. I can't take it anymore. A group of people went up the stage, all of them in a state of rage. Brother Wrist grabbed his subordinate's wrist. Damn it, why am I so nervous? Don't you think I'm cheap? I've always been ordered around by him. Now I'm actually nervous. Brother Wrist, I'm also a little nervous. That guy is too arrogant. If you don't look at the result, he's already helped us vent our anger. No matter what, he represents our Extreme Immortal Sect. He's our last hope. Hope my ass. I think he'll be beaten until his own mother can't recognize him. Sigh, at least he has some backbone. It's not a waste to call him boss for more than a month. Nan Tian was completely disheartened and only now did he realize what had happened. He frowned at the young man on the stage and said to the two people behind him. Elder Jiesin, is that person taking things too hard? He didn't expect that there would be someone more desperate than him. Sect Master, should we go and stop him? Nan Tian hesitated for a moment. Now that Elder Chen Shi has agreed to his challenge, it's too late for us to stop him. Let's wait and see. If they try to kill him, the two of you must save his life. Leave it to us. The two elders bowed and accepted the order. On the stage, the 60 people in front of Lu Chen were already rubbing their fists, eager to give it a try. Kid, if we don't skin you alive today, our Shenwu sect won't stop. Let me go first. I'll break one of his arms first. Everyone, let me go first. I promise I won't kill him. I'll help you vent your anger. Is that okay? Everyone looked at the person who spoke. It was Jiu Li from the Azure Cloud sect. Jiu Li's strength was obvious. The number of people here who were stronger than him could be counted with one hand. Since he had spoken, no one dared to speak up. Everyone from the Extreme Immortal Sect sucked in a breath of cold air. Jiu Li is going to go first. This is a direct slap to death. Sigh, they don't want that kid to be in the limelight at all. Jiu Li was the first to be seriously injured, and then the rest of the team will be tormented. I'm afraid that kid will really die in the arena. Should we go? Us? Big brother, let's be realistic. Although we don't feel good, the difference in strength is too great. This is like a moth trying to break through a trap, an egg trying to break a rock. Not only will it be useless, but it will also become the laughing stock of the Extreme Immortal Sect. While they were talking, the competition was about to begin. Lu Chen's first opponent was Jiu Li. Standing in front of Lu Chen, Jiu Li sneered, rude dog, I'll make you regret it immediately. Lu Chen smiled faintly. I haven't met a powerful spirit controller yet. More powerful? Humph. Kid, you really are the most arrogant outer sect disciple I've ever seen. Soon, you'll know the gap between us. It's something you'll never be able to surpass in your lifetime. Lu Chen curled his lips. I heard that a spirit controller's battle spirit is very difficult to kill. Is that true? Nonsense, you want to kill Xing Tian and Qi Yu? Dream on. Lu Chen nodded. It seemed that it was quite challenging. The competition entered the countdown. The two elders of the extreme immortal sect were already standing at the side of the arena. However, several elders from other sects suddenly appeared beside them. They didn't say anything and just stood behind Elder Jia and Elder Jia Xian. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that if the elders of the extreme immortal sect made a move, the other elders wouldn't just stand by and watch. Life and death were on the line. If they delayed for even a moment, that outer sect disciple would probably die. Nan Tian angrily looked at the other sect leaders, but they didn't notice. They didn't explain anything and just continued to watch the competition. These guys really wanted that kid's life. Nan Tian frowned. What should he do? 3, 2, 1. The competition began. Spirit Controller Summon, War God Xing Tian. A giant god appeared in front of Jiu Li. Xing Tian didn't reveal his identity. His face grew on his stomach. He held a one-handed axe that was over 10 meters long and a giant shield in his other hand. He stood in the middle of the arena, his might shocking everyone. Lu Chen frowned slightly. Hey, aren't you going to use Qi Yu? Against you, even summoning Xing Tian would dirty his blade. Jiu Li coldly snorted. Lu Chen shook his head. He raised his hand and a strange black and white weapon slowly appeared in the air. Xing Tian it is. I'm also looking forward to fighting against such a legendary character. When the limitless demon god appeared, everyone present felt their weapons tremble slightly. When the limitless demon god appeared, he reigned supreme. What's going on? My dark iron spear is resonating. What grade weapon is that guy's sword? Could it be a divine weapon? That's impossible. There are a total of 9 divine weapons in the 4th heaven, and they are all unique in the entire server. They already have owners. Jiu Li stared at the weapon in Lu Chen's hand with his eyes wide open. What weapon are you using? Why can't I recognize it? Lu Chen snorted. You speak as if you recognize all the weapons. I have many things that you don't recognize. Do I need to explain them to you one by one? Don't be nervous. I won't kill you for now. I want to practice with this legendary war god first. As soon as he said that, everyone's brows were knitted together. What? He wants to fight the war spirit instead of the main body. That guy is crazy. Although Xing Tian is slightly inferior to Qi Yu, his strength is still not to be underestimated. Normal players can only avoid him and finish off the spirit controller as soon as possible. Forget it. He probably knows that he's going to die. Let him do whatever he wants. Sigh, Lu Chen stood in front of Xing Tian like an ant. At this moment, Lu Chen was a little excited. The one standing in front of him was actually Xing Tian. Xing Tian. Legend had it that Xing Tian had once fought with the Yellow Emperor and was not at a disadvantage. Although he lost to the Yellow Emperor in the end, his uncompromising spirit would always inspire the future generations. Xing Tian danced in the sky, his ferocious will always be there. War God Xing Tian. Let me see how strong you are. Jiu Li was furious. That guy didn't take him seriously at all and was actually talking to the war spirit. Damn it, I'm going to kill you. Xing Tian, chop him into minced meat. Fighting spirit barrier. With a boom, the entire arena was surrounded by a faint red gas. A few debuffs appeared on Lu Chen's body. Loss of fighting spirit, rage-type skills are prohibited. Cowardice, attack speed reduced by 46%, movement speed reduced by 40%, attack accuracy reduced by 30%. At the same time, Xing Tian had an additional buff. Fierce will, rage will be gained from attacking or being attacked. Lu Chen frowned slightly. He only had one rage-type skill, which was Universal 8 Desolation. Its damage was very high, and it was a Heavenly Might-type skill. Xing Tian used such a barrier. It seemed like his skills were mainly rage-type skills, so the damage was probably not low. At this moment, Xing Tian made his move. Waving his huge battle axe, he slashed towards Lu Chen. Dismemberment slash. Xing Tian's strength was extremely high, and his speed was beyond everyone's imagination. Dismemberment slash's font was red. Lu Chen had already realized that physical damage skills were too common in grade 4, so there was a special prompt. The red font represented physical damage skills. His first move was a physical damage skill, and it was a killing move. Unfortunately, you're a melee fighter. War God Possession. Demon Transformation. Lu Chen grabbed the limitless demon sword and advanced instead of retreating. 3000 Body Flicker Slash. Leaving behind an afterimage, Lu Chen had already turned into a gray shadow and slashed out 11 combo attacks. However, in the eyes of others, this was not an 11 combo attack. A normal attack of 5 combo attacks, plus 10 poisons, 15 segments of damage. 11 combo attacks was 165 segments of damage. In less than 3 seconds, countless damage values floated up from Xing Tian's gigantic body. Although Xing Tian was not pure meat stew, he still had 380 million HP. However, after the 3000 body flicker slash, Xing Tian's huge body slowly fell to one side. Xing Tian, who had 380 million HP, was instantly killed. The entire arena was silent for a moment. Chapter 559. Kill the battle spirit first before fighting a spirit controller. This was definitely a wrong example. Unless you could kill the battle spirit instantly, Jiu Ling was completely petrified, and his not-so-big eyes widened to their widest. Xing Tian, was killed instantly. In the arena, all the Immortal Pinnacle sect disciples, be it the outer sect, inner sect, or inner sect, were pale. The disciples from the other sects who were watching the battle felt as if their hearts had been punched. Am I right? That outer sect disciple killed Xing Tian instantly. Oh my god, what's with that guy's damage? That's too perverted. Is he really an outer sect disciple? Not to mention the disciples, even the sect masters and elders who were clamoring on the rostrum turned pale with fright. Even they couldn't insta-kill Xing Tian. A damage of nearly 400 million per second was simply a joke. Impossible, it's impossible to have such terrifying damage. I don't believe it. Nantian was also stunned. He hurriedly grabbed an elder behind him and asked, "Does our sect have such a disciple?" Coincidentally, the elder that Nantian grabbed was the one who recruited Lu Chen. Sect Master, I remember now. I remember now. Remember what? I'm the one who summoned him. That day, he punched the testing stone and dealt 31 million damage. What? 31 million per punch. Why didn't you say so earlier? Why did you put him in the outer sect? Sect Master, at that time, we all thought that it was his most powerful attack. At that time, he also dawdled and didn't continue to attack, so I calculated the result based on 31 million damage. Nantian didn't blame this elder anymore. Just think about it, if he was the one who tested it back then, he would probably think the same thing. 31 million is indeed a good result, but compared to the damage he dealt just now, he was just messing around during the test. In the arena, Lu Chen teleported to Jiu Li with a triple door. I've seen Xing Tian, and it's not that interesting. As for Qiyu, forget it, I don't want to see it anymore. It probably won't be that strong in your hands. Jiu Li suffered another critical blow. That person obviously hadn't used his true strength yet. He didn't think that he needed to summon Qiyu, but now the other party had lost his patience. Lu Chen only had physical damage skills when he was in the 6 transformations of the demonic and divine transformation. However, he had already said that if anyone used physical damage skills on him, he would return the favor. There was only one way left. Furball. A cute little furball jumped out of Lu Chen's hand and squeaked twice. Its body instantly expanded and pounced towards Jiu Li like lightning. A feast. With a blood-curdling scream, Jiu Li's arm was bitten off. The scene became abnormally bloody. The furball stared at Jiu Li and bit him. The damage to Jiu Li's body decreased rapidly. The elders below the stage were prepared to hold back the elder of the extreme immortal sect, but when they saw this scene, they were dumbfounded. What kind of battle pet is that? Was he crazy? It's going to eat Jiu Li alive. Not long after, Jiu Li was already lying on the ground, unable to move. His body was covered in blood. Lu Chen looked at him and said calmly, "Furball, come back." In an instant, Jiu Li, one of the top 3 warriors of the Azure Cloud sect, was lying on the ground like a pile of mud. No one knew if he was dead or alive. The 60 contestants who were eager to give it a try could not help but shudder with fear and trepidation. Not only was this guy unbelievably powerful, but he was also vicious. How horrifying. Even his battle pet was so terrifying. The way it fought was different from the usual battle pets. It would pounce on people and tear them apart. The feeling of watching their own limbs being chewed up by that huge rat was too horrifying. Brother Wrist and the others were dumbfounded. Shit. Now that I think about it, our boss went easy on us. That Jiu Li is so pitiful. It's a good thing that we admitted defeat. If we angered our boss, we would have been tortured to death. I didn't know that our boss was so powerful. I used to be a bit unconvinced. But now, I don't dare to be disloyal. The only one who was still calm was Lu Chen. He patted Furball. After the transformation, Furball seemed to be more bloodthirsty. Also, Furball had more combat experience as it fought with him. Speaking of which, it was a good thing that he met this guy early. If he had met it now, it would have been troublesome to subdue it. Putting away Furball, Lu Chen looked at the masters of the major sections. Who's next? 58 people. All of them took a step back in unison. Only one was still in a daze. By the time he realized it, it was too late. Come on. Hurry up, Lu Chen said with a smile. That person looked at Lu Chen's kind smile. He didn't feel close at all. This was definitely a sinister smile. He might be killed soon. Hurry up. I still have 59 matches to fight. Lu Chen frowned. That person had no choice but to step forward. Before the fight started, that person cupped his fists to Lu Chen. Hello, Senior. Senior. Lu Chen was a little confused. He seemed to have just arrived at the 4th celestial layer. Moreover, he was only an outer disciple of a small sect. It seemed a little inappropriate for him to be called Senior. Senior, this is a martial arts competition. How about we stop when it's appropriate? Stop when it's appropriate? Yes, it's a martial arts competition. It's not a duel. Of course we stop when it's appropriate. Lu Chen thought about it. It seemed to make sense. Senior, you said before that if others used physical damage skills, you would also use physical damage. If others don't use it, you won't use it either. Lu Chen nodded. Yes, I've always been like this. I'll treat others the same way they treat me. Great. That person said excitedly. He felt better. Cough, cough. I don't think I'll use physical damage skills. Then I'll let Furball rest. Okay. Senior, be careful. I'm coming. Brother Wrist held his forehead. The brother opposite him was actually so cowardly. He first agreed not to use physical damage and stop when it's appropriate. Only then did he dare to attack. Boss's deterrence is too strong. Who in the fourth celestial layer didn't fight their way up? In the end, that guy actually cowered before the battle. Is it worth it? Nonsense. It's easy for you to say that. Did you see Jiu Li? His strength was probably in the top 5. Now, he's a pile of mud. You make it sound so easy. If you're so good, why don't you go and fight him? Jiu Li's defeat isn't the most shocking thing. The key is that he died so miserably. Xing Tian was killed instantly. He didn't even have time to release Qiyu before he was bitten into a human stick. Who wouldn't cower after seeing that? Our boss is really strong. Now that I think about it, we've profited from being his underlings. That makes sense. Boss is so strong. In the future, we'll also be his underlings. The group suddenly realized that being his underlings for a month and a half was not a loss. Some people had already started to proudly introduce themselves to others. Hey, that's my boss. My boss is strong, right? I knew that long ago. Otherwise, why would I casually acknowledge him as my boss? Remember, my boss is the strongest outer disciple in history. Chapter 560. With Lu Chen's strength, he was on a completely different level compared to these disciples. With the successful example of, don't overdo it, the people below all followed the same pattern and came up with 3 rules. No physical attacks. That's enough. Don't release little furball. Senior, I'm Su Chu from Yenhu sect. I saw Senior fighting with Senior from Immortal Sword sect. I have something I don't understand and would like to ask Senior for guidance. Lu Chen shook his head. What was the meaning of this? Wasn't this a martial arts competition? These people were getting more and more overboard. They actually wanted to learn the moves for free. However, one wouldn't hit a smiling person. Since they were asking for guidance, he didn't want to beat them up. Sigh, then tell me. Senior, just now, Immortal Sword Sect Senior used the Sacred Sword Barrier to seal Senior's movement technique, then used the 72 sword techniques to seal Senior's retreat. Finally, he used the killer move Heaven Splitting Sword to attack. How did you manage to dodge and kill Immortal Sword Sect Senior? Lu Chen recalled and said, it's not as incredible as you said. The 72 sword techniques were relatively weak. I used my strongest bow to delay the speed of 2 of the 72 sword techniques, and a loophole appeared in the entire system. In less than half a second, I was able to use the combination of the triple gate to split Mount Hua and control the opponent, completely stopping him from continuing to control the 72 sword techniques and Heaven Splitting Sword. Finally, I managed to dodge and kill him at close range. Of course, the positioning during the process is very important. At the beginning, you have to pretend to retreat and lure the 72 sword techniques to chase after you. Then, you have to continuously shoot arrows to create an opening, dodge, and counterattack in one go. You can't give the opponent too much time to react. So the initial retreat was to lure the 72 sword techniques. Senior can still maintain a clear mind in the fierce battle and lead the opponent's thoughts. I'm impressed. Lu Chen was also depressed. If it was a martial arts competition, then it was a martial arts competition. Why did they have to ask for advice? This group of people didn't play by the rules. The competition was still going on, but the nature of it had changed. This group of people seemed to have grasped Lu Chen's temper. If you were polite to him, he wouldn't make things difficult for you. If you provoked him from the start, then the outcome of Jiu Li was the best example. After more than 3 hours, the 60 experts from various sects were all defeated without exception. Lu Chen heaved a long sigh of relief. It was finally settled. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge me? Lu Chen looked below the stage. Now, how could any disciple dare to challenge Lu Chen? The audience was silent. Lu Chen nodded and looked at Elder Chen Shi. Then the extreme immortal sect shouldn't be merged, right? Only then did Elder Chen Shi return to his senses. Since we've already agreed that you've won, there's no need for you to be merged. Lu Chen nodded and jumped off the stage to leave. Wait. Suddenly, someone called out to Lu Chen. Please wait. Lu Chen looked back and saw that Elder Chen Shi had already teleported to the arena. Excuse me, what's your name? Solipsistic. Solipsistic. How arrogant. Elder Chen Shi seemed to be talking to himself as he savored this guy's ID. Indeed, this guy lived up to his name. Oh right, little brother, are you willing to join the immortal army? With your strength, it's enough to join the immortal army and fight against the enemies with us. Lu Chen shook his head. I've just reached the 4th layer and you want me to go to war. I don't want to go now. Wait until my strength increases. Increase your strength? You can still increase your strength? Lu Chen frowned. Elder Chen Shi, what are you saying? Why can't I increase my strength? It's not that. Elder Chen Shi smiled apologetically. What I mean is that you're already very strong. How can you increase your strength as an outer disciple of the extreme immortal sect? At this moment, the sect leader of the immortal sword sect rushed to the arena. Little brother, we've become friends after fighting. Elder Chen Shi is right. How can you increase your strength as an outer disciple? If you're interested in joining our immortal sword sect, we'll definitely give you resources and prioritize your development. The sect leader of the Sunset sect wasn't happy as she rushed to the arena. Little brother, although our Sunset sect only accepts female disciples, and our sect is filled with beautiful women, we're willing to make an exception and accept you. As long as you're willing, we'll definitely not let you be an outer disciple. This Sunset sect leader seemed to still have her charm. Just now, the Sunset sect did have a few beautiful girls. At this moment, Lu Chen's heart was moved. Which part of your sect is filled with beauties? Hearing Lu Chen's reply, the Sunset sect leader beamed with joy. She was especially enthusiastic. They're definitely all beauties. Little brother, if you're still single, let me tell you. Our sect's disciples are especially passionate. Also, you know that everyone usually sees senior and junior sisters. If there's a junior brother, everyone will definitely dote on you. This condition was very tempting. Little brother. Just now, when you were fighting with Jiu Li, I saw that you were being lenient. The sect leader of the Blue Cloud sect could no longer sit still as he squeezed out from the crowd. Right now, our Blue Cloud sect is planning to implement a plan to focus on supporting disciples. We plan to nurture a few of the strongest disciples. If you join us, this spot will definitely be yours. Everyone. A low shout interrupted the crowd. He's a disciple of our Immortal Peak sect. I'm still here and you guys are trying to recruit him in front of me. Aren't you going a bit overboard? The person who came was the sect leader of the Immortal Peak sect, Nantian. He squeezed in with great difficulty and quickly walked to Lu Chen's side. Little brother Du Kuang, since you're willing to fight for our Immortal Peak sect, it means that you still have some feelings for our sect, right? Lu Chen blinked his eyes. Actually, he didn't have any feelings. He only had feelings for his sect. However, Nantian had just been betrayed by his disciple. Moreover, from the rules of the Immortal Peak sect, Nantian should be a good person. Lu Chen thought for a moment and reluctantly nodded. Nantian let out a sigh of relief. Everyone, little brother Du Kuang is a disciple of our Immortal Peak sect. I can understand your love for talent. However, this is our Immortal Peak sect after all. Please conduct yourselves with dignity. After all, this was the territory of the Immortal Peak sect. Moreover, Nanshan's personal strength wasn't weak. The other sect leaders knew that they were in the wrong and could only shut up. No one would have thought that the outcome of the Battle of Immortal Peak sect would be changed by an outer disciple with his own strength. The Immortal Peak sect wasn't annexed. In the inner mountain of the Immortal Peak sect, Nantian personally brewed a cup of tea for Lu Chen. In view of Lu Chen's strength, this guy obviously came to the Immortal Peak sect to relax. Sect leader Nantian also knew that although he was a disciple of the Immortal Peak sect, he didn't have the qualifications to put on the airs of a sect leader in front of him. He had to call Lu Chen little brother Du Kuang. Little brother Du Kuang, thank you for your help this time. Otherwise, I would have been too frustrated. Lu Chen smiled faintly. Sect leader is too serious. No matter what, I am still a disciple of the Immortal Peak sect. Little brother Du Kuang, I don't dare to accept your praise. However, why did you come to the Immortal Peak sect? I just arrived at the fourth heaven. Coincidentally, the territory of the Immortal Peak sect was nearby, so I joined the Immortal Peak sect. Lu Chen took a sip of tea. So that's how it is. However, in the end, little brother Du Kuang chose to stay in the Immortal Peak sect. Nantian seemed to have made an important decision as he said, however, after today's matter, it is reasonable to say that we should be like the other sects and concentrate our resources to nurture experts. However, after thinking about it carefully, the rules of the Immortal Peak sect might not change. Little brother Du Kuang, when the other sect leaders were fighting over you, I was too excited to let you stay. However, after thinking about it carefully, an expert like you might develop better if you entered their sect. If you want to leave, I believe that any of the other sects would still fight over you. Lu Chen looked at Nantian in surprise. This guy was actually so stubborn. He still wanted to stick to his principles. However, this kind of stubbornness reminded Lu Chen of an old friend's words. Don't forget your original intentions, only then can you achieve success. Perhaps, in the future, this person would be the key to changing the predicament of the human race. Chapter 561. Nantian did not change his principles because of Lu Chen. This made Lu Chen think highly of him. After interacting with many Jyotian people, Lu Chen realized that everyone here had their own ideals and dreams. This made him feel that these people were living individuals. Lu Chen smiled faintly, you are the sect master. You have the final say. Nantian was a little embarrassed, that, brother Du Kuang, which sect are you going to next? What do you mean by which sect? I'll just continue to be an outer disciple. Ah. You're not leaving. Even the Sunset sect invited you. I've never seen them invite a male disciple before. Lu Chen frowned, although the female disciples they invited are not bad, they aren't particularly stunning. The powerful ones might not be the most beautiful ones. Lu Chen sized up Nantian, I say, sect master, is it appropriate for a sect master like you to stare at the female disciples of other sects all day long? Hey, brother Du Kuang, don't make fun of me. I'm just afraid that you'll change your mind. Don't worry. I've seen many beauties. I won't be unable to walk because of them. That's great. If that's the case, being an outer disciple is not suitable for brother Du Kuang. How about you become an elder of the Extreme Immortal sect? You can protect the Extreme Immortal sect with your own strength. Even if I give the sect master position to you, no one will say anything. Sect master, don't scare me. I'm used to being a free person. Being an outer disciple is enough. I'll just get some resources. An elder also has to teach me. I can't stand being taught any combat experience. Being the sect master is even more troublesome. Please don't give it to me. Brother Lone Quan, you should stop calling me sect master. The Nine Heavens has always been a place where the strong are respected. During the competition, you did not even give it your all. The damage you caused had already reached such a frightening degree. Brother Lone Quan, I can no longer accept you calling me Brother Southern Heaven. Lu Chen smiled. Others looked at strength, but he never looked at it. The feeling Nan Tian gave him was that he was a person who stuck to his principles. Moreover, Lu Chen also supported his point of view. This was the real reason why he was willing to stay. When I make friends with people, I only look at their character, not their strength. How about this? I'll call you sect leader in front of others, but I'll call you Big Brother Nan Tian in private. How about that? Nan Tian looked at Lu Chen with some surprise. Solipsistic actually took the initiative to make friends with him. This was something he couldn't wait for. Sure. How about I call you Brother Lone Quan? All right. After returning from the inner mountains, Lu Chen saw a large group of people gathered around his residence from afar. These were all outer sect disciples of the extreme immortal sect. They surrounded Lu Chen's small wooden hut with 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. Why hasn't Senior Du Quang returned yet? I don't know. Could it be that he was directly promoted to an inner disciple? That's very likely. Did you see the situation at that time? All the sect leaders of the major sects were fighting over him. Even the Sunset sect had spoken up. Entering the Sunset sect is my ultimate dream. When Brother Wrist and the others saw the dumbfounded Lu Chen, they hurriedly rushed over and surrounded Lu Chen to protect him. Everyone, make way. My big brother is back. Big brother, slow down. Lu Chen was also speechless. These guys were only supposed to help him with his daily missions. How come they were now part-time bodyguards? Applause rang out from the crowd. Mad God, it's all thanks to you that the extreme immortal sect was saved. The Mad God slaughtered 60 top-notch experts and helped our extreme immortal sect vent our anger. Thank you, Mad God, for your help. Mad God, are you leaving the outer sect? Lu Chen shook his head. I won't be leaving for the time being. You all can go back. I want to rest. You won't leave? Mad God, are you still going to stay here? Brother Wrist hurriedly gathered his men. Don't ask, don't ask. If the boss says he won't leave, then he won't leave. Let's disperse. The boss wants to rest. Yes, let's disperse. Mad God fought 60 rounds. He must be tired. Under the urging of a group of people, the disciples who had gathered here dispersed. After finally having some peace and quiet, Lu Chen returned to his room. Brother Wrist helped Lu Chen pour water and move a chair, working especially hard. Lu Chen rolled his eyes at him and chased him away with his original big brothers. Finally, the world was quiet. Little Green, come out and take a look. After leaving the sect master's courtyard, the first place Lu Chen went to was the sect contribution exchange store. There were many items in the sect's exchange store. They were more complete than the Third Heaven Quartermaster's items, and their grades were also higher. Among them, there was a spirit condensing pill that increased spiritual energy by 100 points. Its effect was far inferior to the immortal spirit pill, but it cost 3,000 contribution points. Lu Chen worked hard for a month and a half, but he could only get 6 spirit condensing pills that increased spiritual energy by 600 points. In the end, Lu Chen couldn't bear to directly exchange for pills. Instead, he exchanged for materials for the spirit condensing pill. One set of materials cost 600 contribution points. It required an 8th rank medicine refiner to refine, and the success rate was only 30%. I didn't expect a pill that increased spiritual energy to be so expensive. It's 10 times more expensive than a third-dimension medicine refiner. Little Green, can you make a spirit condensing pill with these materials? Boss, no problem. But the success rate isn't very high. How much? About 60% success rate. 60% is already very good. Even if it's only 50%, 2 sets of materials can refine a spirit condensing pill. In other words, I only need 1,200 contribution points to get one. It's already more cost-effective than exchanging directly. It's good to have Little Green. Lu Yi was a bit embarrassed to be praised by her boss. She lowered her head and smiled. It's a pity that I didn't see the materials for the immortal spirit pill. Lu Yi thought for a moment and said, Boss, maybe the materials for the immortal spirit pill can't be bought. How can such precious materials be supplied without limit? I think we might have to gather them ourselves. Also, they can only be gathered in certain special places. Lu Chen nodded. It's possible. The quartermaster didn't have them. I thought you would have to reach the fourth heaven to get them. I just asked Nantian and he said that regardless of the size of the sect, the items exchanged are the same. In other words, if the Limitless Sect's shop doesn't have them, the other sects won't have them either. The spirit condensing pill adds too little spiritual energy. Even if I exchange for one every 2 days, if I want to increase my spiritual energy to 100,000 points, I'll have to eat 270 pills. That's... damn, 540 days. Boss, maybe after my alchemy level increases, the success rate will be higher. Lu Chen shook his head. That's not your problem. Even if you have a 100% success rate, you'll still need 270 days. That's too long. Also, the price of the attributes and items is even higher. That's a bottomless pit. Then what do we do? Lu Yi asked. Lu Chen thought for a moment and said, if we rely on the daily quests, the sect contributions won't be shown. We have to do some quests with more sect contributions. Boss, are you going to participate in the arena? Not going. What's the point of competing with these kids? Also, the first place only earns 100 sect contributions. It's not interesting. Lu Chen rubbed his chin. Old brother Nantian said that there's a joint sect exploration quest. That quest gives the most sect contributions. It's led by several sect elders to explore the barren land. The larger the area explored, the higher the sect contribution points and the more sect contributions the explorers receive. Okay, let's go. Lu Yi was looking forward to it. It's been a long time since we went out. We've been in the fourth heaven for so long, but we still haven't left this place. Lu Chen smiled. It seemed that Little Green was also holding back. I also want to go, but Nantian said, the mortality rate is over 70%. He told me to be careful. Speaking of this matter, Lu Chen frowned. The mortality rate was over 70%. This number was not a joke. Chapter 562. There was a large area of barren lands behind the human race. As the human race's hinterland, the United Front Alliance requested that these areas must be explored. These tasks were handed over to the various sects behind to handle. Lu Chen came from the barren land. Although he didn't encounter any danger, just the lack of water and food, and the harsh environment were enough to make people stop in their tracks. According to Nantian, the barren lands were filled with danger. Not only were there ferocious monsters, but there were also whirlpools. If one was not careful, one would be sucked into an unknown place. Some places were called dead lands. There were only entrances and no exits. Once one was sucked in, one would never be able to get out. Therefore, it was not safe to explore the barren lands just because one was strong. Normally, an experienced elder would lead a few disciples to explore the barren lands. Even so, the various sects were still responsible for exploring the barren lands every 6 months to complete the map of the human race's territory. Lu Chen was also surprised. Up until now, the map of the fourth heaven had not been completed, the smaller barren lands have been explored. Now, the remaining areas are very dangerous. In the last joint exploration, it was said that only 30 out of 100 people returned. Lu Chen said. "Ah, then boss, are you going?" Lu Chen thought for a while and said. "Yes. I believe that the heaven realm will become more and more terrifying in the future. Any experience I have might be able to rely on to survive in the future. Since I have come to the fourth heaven, I have no reason not to explore the barren lands." Lu Chen also thought of the map that Xuan Wu gave him. That map was an unknown area. It meant that the location on the map was a place that had not been explored yet. It was very likely that it was in one of the barren lands. "I will sign up tomorrow." Nan Tian wanted to persuade Lu Chen, but Lu Chen insisted on going. Nan Tian could not persuade him and could only agree to Lu Chen's request. 3 days later, Elder Ling Xiao would lead 3 disciples to gather at the Sunset Sect. Then, they would go to the barren lands. Lu Chen prepared a lot of food and water. After he was done, he teleported to the Sunset Sect from the sect's teleportation point. There were a total of 120 people from 30 sects in this exploration mission. All of them were gathered at the Sunset Sect's inner mountain. When Lu Chen saw the scene of the Sunset Sect's disciples training in the martial arts field, his intestines turned green with regret. This place was indeed full of beauties. At a glance, it was simply one wave after another. Half of the male disciples who came were already having nosebleeds. What was even worse was that it was said that because all the disciples in the sect were female, they usually wore very revealing clothes during training. "Senior Du Kuang, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well? You don't look well." His junior sister looked at Lu Chen worriedly. Lu Chen reluctantly retracted his gaze. "It's nothing. I've just been a little heady lately." Although not everyone knew Lu Chen, quite a few people from the Dawnfall sect knew about this solipsistic. A group of beauties cast gazes of admiration at him. This was another critical hit. "Lu Chen, oh Lu Chen, your brain must have been damaged. You actually rejected such an opportunity. If I joined the Dawnfall sect, I could change girlfriends every day." The team had already set off. Lu Chen had a long face as he followed at the back of the team. He reluctantly left the Dawnfall sect. The exploration area this time was located at the southwest of the Dawnfall sect. This was the first time they had organized a group of people to explore. Along the way, many elders repeatedly warned him. "You must follow the team and not act alone." There were a total of 4 people from the Limitless sect. Elder Ling Xiao, Lu Chen, Elder Ling Xiao's disciple, Feng Yu, and another elder's inner disciple, Purple Eye. Xiao Quan, exploring the barren land is not just a simple martial arts competition. When the time comes, you must follow behind me. The sect master said that you must not have any accidents. Lu Chen smiled. Elder Ling Xiao, you must be careful as well. We should look after each other. The group traveled quickly. By evening, they had already reached the edge of the barren land. Looking from afar, the sky was dark and the wind was raging. In front of them, the Dawnfall sect's team temporarily set up camp to replenish their strength. They would enter the barren land at dawn. At night, the group set up campfire tents behind a few scattered trees. They set up camp and rested according to their sections. Feng Yu and Purple Eye were traveling with Lu Chen. It was inevitable that they were excited. They pulled Lu Chen and chatted for a long time. In the end, Lu Chen had no choice but to use the excuse of resting to return to his tent. Late at night, not far away, the wind was howling. It was as if there was a terrifying monster living in this unknown barren land. He did not expect that he would have to return to the barren land today after coming from the barren land. However, Nan Tian said that the barren land in front of the Immortal Poles sect had already been explored. This was a brand new barren land. The danger level was much higher than the previous one. Whirlpool. I wonder what it is. Lu Chen shook his head. The next day, when the wind was not too strong, the group entered the barren land. As soon as they entered the barren land, Lu Chen could clearly feel the surrounding temperature plummeting. It was as if the wind was wrapped in ice blades, making people feel cold all over. Damn, it's even colder than the place I came to. Lu Chen was complaining when he suddenly saw an additional debuff in his status. Cold Winter, Level 1, Body Stiffened, Movement Reduced by 10%. Fortunately, the speed of Cold Winter stacking was very slow. For more than 10 minutes, it was only one level. Not long after, the group arrived at a dilapidated ruin. The group also stopped temporarily. Elder Ling Xiao said, "This should be the place to set up camp. After that, each sect will split up and explore. Synchronize your personal maps." The leader of the group used some kind of magic weapon and raised stone walls around them. The group then set up camp behind the walls. After a while, Elder Ling Xiao looked at his personal map and said, "Let's go. No one has claimed Area 21. Let's go there." After saying that, he claimed an area on the map. It was time to start exploring. Lu Chen called out the Eye of the Dark Gods. In addition to being able to predict skills, it also had another function. It could see things that the human eye could not see. Perhaps it would be useful here. "Rhubarb, come out too." The amethyst-eyed lady looked at Rhubarb strangely. "Senior, is this your battle pet?" "Don't call me senior. It sounds awkward." "This is my pet, but it can't fight." Lu Chen smiled. The amethyst-eyed lady nodded. Against the wind and sand, the four of them carefully explored along the edge of Elder Ling Xiao's map. The sandstorm is coming. The visibility is so low. Everyone, stay close. Suddenly, there seemed to be some strange sounds in the distance. What's that sound? Is it the exploration team from Area 20? Lu Chen stopped. The voice just now was very vague, especially in the wind, it was very difficult to distinguish. Elder Ling Xiao opened his personal map at once. Then, his eyes widened. No way. The people in Area 20 are gone. What? Lu Chen said anxiously, they just started exploring and they already encountered a whirlpool. It's not necessarily a whirlpool. It could be some kind of creature. But I can't see Elder by his location on the map. Lu Chen's hearing was fine. Those sounds might have been their cries for help. But everything happened too fast. Wasn't the barren land a little too dangerous? At that moment, Rhubarb barked at the wind and sand in front of them. Lu Chen opened his eyes wide and whispered, "Be careful, there's something up ahead. Rhubarb, come back." Chapter 563. Elder Ling Xiao hurriedly marked the red dots on the map, but when he opened the map, Elder Ling Xiao was stunned. He quickly pushed the map in front of everyone. There were more than 30 areas divided by the exploration team, and red dots quickly appeared one after another. They all encountered it. Oh my God, what's going on here? I've never encountered such a situation. Feng Yu and Amethyst-Eyed Monarch looked very nervous. Lu Chen and Ling Xiao stood in front of them. We don't know what's ahead. You guys hide behind us. Everyone activated some enhancement skills one after another. Lu Chen activated Ares Armor, Blood Sacrifice Shield, and Lightless Sky Flame Pillar. Great Ravager Sweep. Lu Chen swept out a few sword auras. There were some sounds in the sandstorm ahead, but there were no damage values. Now Lu Chen was very sure that there was something ahead, but he wasn't sure what it was. Elder Ling Xiao, did the other teams say what they encountered? Lu Chen looked ahead vigilantly. 4 teams have already disappeared. If they encountered a beast, they should have time to send back information. But so far, none of the teams have reported back. I'm either a moving whirlpool or a void beast. Lu Chen frowned. Whirlpools can move. What the hell is a void beast? My attack just now clearly hit it, but it didn't cause any damage. Yes, there's definitely no damage if you hit a whirlpool. There's also no damage if you hit a void beast. They don't take any form of attack. Lu Chen almost vomited blood. How can they fight if they don't take any form of attack? Then aren't we dead for sure? Void beasts are extremely rare. They don't cause any damage, but they will wrap the enemy's body and send them into the whirlpool. Let's put it this way, they are like the servants of the whirlpool, feeding the whirlpool. Then how did you deal with void beasts before? Run. Void beasts won't go far from the main whirlpool. But from the situation of the other teams, the surroundings are full of whirlpools. We might not be able to escape. Fuck. Lu Chen was on the verge of breaking down. It was not easy for him to participate in an exploration mission, but he ended up in such a situation. Elder Ling Xiao said, under normal circumstances, it's common for a barren land to have 1 or 2 whirlpools. However, we've only just started exploring this area, and yet we've already encountered so many whirlpools. This is unique. Elder Ling Xiao's explanation didn't make Lu Chen feel any better. It only made him feel that his luck index was off the charts. We can't give up. Lu Chen suddenly said, the speed of the vortex doesn't seem to be very fast. Let's see if we can escape from the barren land. That's the only way. At this time, he had to rely on rhubarb. Lu Chen summoned rhubarb again. Rhubarb, see if you can get us out. Rhubarb nodded and looked around. Not long after, rhubarb ran in a certain direction. Lu Chen hurriedly said, everyone, follow up. When they reached Area 19, Lu Chen and the others encountered a team here. The 4 people here were desperately shooting skills in all directions. All the attacks seemed to have been swallowed up, like stones sinking into the sea. Fortunately, their elder was very experienced. He told the team to stay where they were and release their skills. When they saw Lu Chen and the others, the 4 people looked as if they had seen their saviors. Ling Xiao, how did you escape? Old D, don't ask. Come with us, quick. Rhubarb led the group to escape. They took many twists and turns, almost going through the entire area. Along the way, they encountered more and more teams. They had saved all the people they could. Strange. Little Quang, Rhubarb has indeed avoided danger, but why can't we get out? We're just going around in circles in this area. Ling Xiao repeatedly compared the map and found the problem. Woof, woof. Lu Chen's face was solemn. Rhubarb said that we seem to be surrounded. There's no way out. What? We're surrounded. Lu Chen absolutely believed in Rhubarb's judgment. It seems that the encirclement is shrinking. After a moment of silence, Lu Chen's brows furrowed deeper. That's not right. Are these vortexes conscious? Why would they use such a tactic? A few people seem to be on the verge of collapse. Impossible. The vortexes are like the entrance to a dungeon. How could they be conscious? I don't believe there's no way out. We can't put our hopes in a dog. There must be a way out. After saying that, the few people left the team. They looked at the map and flashed toward the edge of the barren land. However, not long after, everyone heard a few screams. Then, only the sound of the wind was left. Lu Chen shook his head. This was the consequence of not believing in Rhubarb. The others looked in the direction of the sound in horror. A few people used their lives to prove Rhubarb's judgment. However, Rhubarb said that there was no way out. In other words, if they stayed, they would only be waiting for death. Some disciples were already weak and fell to the ground. Why is this happening? Why are there so many vortexes here? Are we going to die? It's fine if we die fighting for humanity on the battlefield, but I don't want to fall into a vortex. It would be fine if we fell into a vortex and died. It is said that some vortexes can trap people. Even if their bodies rot, their consciousness will never be able to escape. No, rather than being imprisoned forever, Wuxia frowned. Rhubarb said that the encirclement was getting smaller and smaller. Was he going to die here? No. He was not willing to give up. He still had a lot of things to do. He could not leave his sister behind. Calm down. Elder Ling Zhao's words just now left a deep impression on Wuxia. The vortexes were like the entrance to a dungeon. Although the inside of the vortexes was not a dungeon, if there was an entrance, it meant that the vortexes were not completely sealed. Thinking of this, Wuxia suddenly asked, Elder Ling Zhao, has anyone ever come out of the vortexes? This legend has it that there were people who came out of the vortexes, but it was said that they only came out after a long time. Moreover, that is only a legend. I cannot guarantee its authenticity. Elder Di Yuan thought of something and hurriedly said, Elder Ling Zhao, what you said is not entirely true. In the records of our war god temple, there were 3 super experts who only took 3 years to escape from the vortexes. Yes, there are similar records in our temple. Wuxia suddenly saw hope. After they came out, did they say how they escaped? There are very few records. Moreover, it seems that every vortex is different. However, they all said the same thing, shattering the void. It seems to be a kind of cultivation method, but there are no scrolls that were passed down. Naturally, it was not passed down. Wuxia's hope that had just been ignited was extinguished again. He did not know how to shatter the void. Woof! 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 Rhubarb suddenly began to bark continuously. The void beast is here. Wuxia's eyes were about to split open. What was worse was that he still could not think of a way to deal with it. At that moment, someone at the back of the group screamed. Wuxia hurriedly turned around. He saw an incomparably huge black palm. Just the palm alone was 20 to 30 meters long. Black smoke billowed out as it swept past. Dozens of people in the group had been caught by the palm and disappeared in an instant. This is the void beast. Wuxia's eyes were about to split open. At that moment, a large hand swept over. Be careful, it's the triple door. Wuxia was about to dodge when he suddenly saw Rhubarb still there. Rhubarb! With a sweep of the palm, the people around Wuxia had all disappeared. Rhubarb ran all the way and dodged the hand. However, as it was running, another hand grabbed Rhubarb. Rhubarb! Wuxia's eyes were about to split open. He instantly used ghost shadows, descend. However, at that moment, another hand grabbed Wuxia's real body like Buddha's 5-finger mountain. Instantly, Wuxia's vision turned black. He had been captured. Chapter 564. When Wuxia opened his eyes, he was shocked. He was actually on Earth. The surrounding skyscrapers were completely different from the ancient buildings in Jiutian. The streets were bustling with traffic and people were either in a hurry or chatting happily. Everything on the shop interface was written in Chinese. Wuxia recognized these shops. He was in the city he was in. Wuxia's brain short-circuited. What's going on? Wuxia was confused. Wait, let me think. Am I back on Earth? Wuxia saw a young mother crossing the road with a 4 or 5-year-old child. On the other side, a sports car was speeding away. Not good. By the time Wuxia realized it, it was already too late. The sports car made a left turn and rushed towards the mother and daughter. There was a loud bang, and everyone looked in that direction. However, the expected scene of blood splattering did not appear. All they saw was the mother blocking the sports car with one hand. The front of the sports car was caved in, but the woman was protecting her child and was unharmed. Lu Chen's eyeballs almost fell out. Did he meet a superwoman? The sports car was smashed, but the man who got out of the sports car only had a little blood at the corner of his mouth. After he got out of the car, he staggered as if he had been drinking. However, after seeing this unbelievable scene, the surrounding people did not stay for long. They only took a glance and hurried on. Sirens could be heard in the distance. The police would come to deal with it. However, Lu Chen was still in a state of confusion. Who the hell was that woman? What was the matter with the surrounding people? This was a strange incident that could make the global news, and they did not even look at it. Wait, could it be Jyotian attribute extraction? Lu Chen suddenly thought of this possibility. He had extracted 100 attribute points, which had already exceeded the human limit. If he extracted 1,000 or 10,000 attribute points, it was not impossible to do this. However, was there anyone who could extract more attributes than him? Even if there was, what about the surrounding people? How could they not be curious? What the hell is going on? Lu Chen had a headache. I should have been caught by the void beast. Logically speaking, I should have been thrown into the whirlpool, but why did I appear on Earth? This isn't Earth either. The people here are so strange. At this moment, Lu Chen realized that the top of his head was covered by a shadow. Then, the surrounding streets, buildings, and the entire city were shrouded in a shadow. Looking up, they didn't know when, but there was already a huge super battleship hovering in the sky. What the hell is this? The hatch of the battleship opened, and many small black dots jumped out of the battleship. Upon closer inspection, they were not floating cannons or fighter jets, but human figures. Lu Chen had never seen those races before. They looked like humans, but their skin was pitch black. Only their eyes were white. These people jumped down from a height of 10,000 meters and began slaughtering the humans without any explanation. 10,000 swords art. Flame fragment. 1,000 miles teleportation. These skills from the 9 heavens had all appeared in the real world. The humans resisted with all their might and fought with these invaders. Suddenly, the last black figure flew out of the battleship. That person was suspended in midair. Withering field. The entire city was completely shrouded in the withering field. The humans were stacked with several layers of debuffs, and their combat power plummeted. On the other hand, the invaders had many buffs on them, increasing their attack power, attack speed, and health regeneration. The ratio was quite exaggerated. Hahaha, since you've lost, what awaits you is extinction. What followed was a massacre. During this time, dozens of humans rushed toward the person in the sky, but without exception, they were all killed before they could even get close. To be able to rush 10,000 meters into the sky, the strength of these humans was definitely not to be underestimated. However, in front of that black man, they were not even able to fight back. Lu Chen was still in a state of confusion. What was going on? Field type skill. The area of effect is so large, and the buffs and debuffs are so exaggerated. This is a field type skill stronger than a barrier. No, they're destroying Earth. Lu Chen finally reacted. He immediately used his movement technique and moved quickly. A few minutes later, Lu Chen finally arrived at his neighborhood. Standing in front of the neighborhood, Lu Chen was frightened. Li Muhua had said that the area around the luxurious villa was protected by the military in secret. It was watertight. However, at this time, it had become a ruin. Lu Chen rushed to his villa like a madman. His villa was also destroyed. The house had collapsed, and it was a mess. There were obvious traces of a fight in the ruins, and there were more than 10 corpses lying in front of the courtyard. Lu Chen knew these people. They were Li Muhua's subordinates. They had been slaughtered here. Muhua. Lu Chen saw a broken body. He teleported over and picked up the corpse. It was Li Muhua. At this time, Li Muhua's arms were twisted in a strange way. His bones were broken, and his body was covered in blood. There was a big hole in his chest, and his internal organs were burned. Muhua. Lu Chen, who was strong, cried when he saw his good friend die. He almost broke down. Li Muhua was dead. No matter how Lu Chen shook him, there was no sign of life. No, Lu Yi, where's Lu Yi? Lu Chen suddenly thought of his sister and hurriedly searched. He dug through the ruins. No, you're definitely not here. You must have run away, right? You're so smart. When he dug deep into the ruins, Lu Chen seemed to have touched something, and his whole body trembled. It was an arm, and there was a photo in the hand. It was a photo of Lu Yi and Lu Chen. No. Lu Chen endured the pain. He still had a glimmer of hope. He had not seen the corpse. Maybe it was not Lu Yi. When he dug the corpse's face, his whole body bounced back like a spring. His eyes were filled with fear. That face, he could not be wrong. It was Lu Yi. Lu Chen's sky collapsed. Lu Yi. Lu Chen rushed to the corpse like a madman. He dug it out and hugged it tightly. Lu Yi's body was covered in wounds. Her blood was mixed with the mud, and she was no longer breathing. She was holding a photo tightly in her hand, as if it was the only thing she wanted to take with her before she died. Lu Yi, no, no. Don't scare me. Wake up, wake up. Lu Chen's voice trembled, and tears flowed down his cheeks. However, Lu Yi did not react at all. The lively girl had now become a cold corpse. No. Lu Chen looked up and wailed. His eyes emitted green rays of light that rushed into the sky. At this moment, his human skin completely exploded. Bastard, I'll kill you. Lu Chen carefully put down Lu Yi's corpse and looked up at the person in the sky. 6 transformations of celestial demons. Celestial demon symbiosis. I'll kill you. Ah. Lu Chen had lost his mind. He shot into the sky like a ray of golden light. Chapter 565. Eternal Night. Lu Chen had already used all his strongest moves and pounced on that person like a madman. Bestowal release. However, that person only glanced at Lu Chen, the corners of his mouth raised slightly, and a strange smile appeared on his dark face. He raised one hand and grabbed Lu Chen, who was in a flickering state, while the other hand grabbed Lu Chen's neck. Lu Chen's eyes were filled with shock. He was in a flickering state, but that person actually caught him. Want to kill me? You're too weak. After saying that, the other hand behind the person's back pierced Lu Chen's chest with a claw. Intense pain came, and Lu Chen almost fainted. The person's hand loosened, and Lu Chen fell from a height of 10,000 meters. Between life and death, Lu Chen was physically and mentally exhausted. Looking at the battleship above his head and the cries of the remaining humans, the whole world was like hell on earth. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Chen opened his eyes and found himself in a forest. Next to him, a girl was busy. The girl looked familiar, but Lu Chen couldn't remember who she was at this time. The girl spat out some herbs from her mouth and applied them to Lu Chen's chest. She inadvertently glanced at Lu Chen and found that his eyes were open. Great, you're awake. Where am I? Where are those invaders? They massacred the entire city, and the main force left. I waited until they left, and when I saw that you were still alive, I secretly rescued you. Lu Chen only felt a splitting headache. Is this the real world? Yes, of course this is the real world. Lu Chen's heart twitched. This is the real world. Not an illusion, not a dream. Could it be that the vortex transported me to Earth? Wait, is this Earth the real Earth, or the Earth in the Jiutian world? If this is real, then Lu Yi is really gone. These questions were too convoluted. The more Lu Chen thought about it, the more his head hurt. Don't move, your injuries are too serious. I didn't have much hope at first, but I didn't expect you to really come back to life. Hey, what's your name? I'm Xiao Bei. Hey, don't look so sad. I know you must have family and friends who passed away. It's the same for everyone. Even if they're gone, those of us who survived must live well. Otherwise, how can we defeat the shadow demon? Lu Chen finally reacted. Shadow demon? Where did they come from? Earth has already been exposed to the Jiutian. In the final battle, we, the human race, were defeated, and the price we paid was, as you have seen. Lu Chen remembered that the shadowy man had said, if you agree to a bet, you must accept your loss. Since you have lost, you must pay the corresponding price. So, he seemed to have a clue. Wait, Xiao Bei. What do you mean by the final battle? The human race hasn't lost yet. We lost a long time ago. Don't you know that the top 10 human experts were defeated in the final battle? The top 10 human experts. Yes, Xian Ji the Wuji Celestial, Zhan Feng the Penglai Celestial, Roa Ku the Illusionary Celestial, Qi Wu the Invincible Celestial, Li Yuan the Pangu Celestial. They all died in a battle. The human race was defeated, and the price was that in reality, all the human planets were occupied and slaughtered. Lu Chen's eyes widened. He had never even heard of the top 10 human experts. Although his body was in extreme pain, Lu Chen didn't care about his life at all. His mind was still spinning wildly. Could it be that the final battle had already ended when they went to do the exploration mission? But it was impossible for the people on Earth to have such a strong physical body so quickly, and they all had skills. Then there were only 3 possibilities. First, this world was not real. Second, this was a parallel universe. Third, this was the real world, but the timeline was different. In other words, this was some time in the future. After calmly analyzing, Lu Chen was slightly relieved. No matter which possibility it was, Lu Yi should not really be dead. Little Bei, how many years is this? Little Bei looked at Lu Chen in surprise. No way, is your brain damaged? Tell me. The year 2045. Lu Chen was shocked. Although he had been in the game for a long time, causing Lu Chen to sometimes forget the date, he would never get the year wrong. This year should be the year 2028. This should be Earth 17 years in the future. 17 years later, the human race was defeated in the final battle. Then, the Dark Shadow tribe invaded and slaughtered all the humans on Earth. Yes, when he hugged Lu Yi, he was too sad. Actually, when he thought about it carefully, although Lu Yi didn't seem to have changed much, she was still a little older than before. In 17 years, the people on Earth might have entered the higher heavens. After coming into contact with cultivation, the changes in their appearance were much smaller. Just like the kingdom protector Qiufeng, who was in her 40s, actually looked like she was in her late 20s. Thinking of this, Lu Chen finally felt better. But it was only temporary. Thinking about it again, if this was the future, then Lu Yi and Li Muhua would still die, and Earth would still be massacred. 17 years. Earth only had 17 years left. Was this real, or was it an illusion that the vortex was showing him? No matter what, Lu Chen would rather believe it. Nothing must happen to Lu Yi. Lu Chen suddenly thought of a question. Little Bei, is there someone called Solipsistic in the top 10? Nameless. How about Lu Chen? I don't know the three you mentioned, but I've heard of solipsistic before. When he was at level 4, he died in the Barren Lands vortex. What? Lu Chen's eyes widened. He died in the vortex. Oh, I don't know if he died or not, but he didn't come out. He was very strong and had a high chance of representing the human race in the final battle. What a pity, Lu Chen had just breathed a sigh of relief, but now his heart was heavy again. He couldn't get out. If he couldn't get out of here, then he couldn't change the fate of Earth and Lu Yi. He didn't know if he could leave this place after defeating the shadowy man. Thinking of this, Lu Chen opened the character panel. His skills and attributes hadn't changed, but his battle pets, spirit pets, and army were not displayed. Damn it, what's going on here? And rhubarb, I have to get out. I have to save it. Little Bei looked at Lu Chen in surprise. What do you mean by get out? We can't stay in the city now. We can only hide in the mountains and forests, find more people, and think of a way to fight back. Sai, the leader of the Shadow Army, is too strong. Actually, I don't know if we have any hope, but, Sai, at least we have to fight back. I want to avenge my family. Lu Chen thought of the shadowy man. That guy had defeated him with one hand. He was so strong that he had never seen him before. He wasn't a match for him even when he was in peak condition, let alone now that he was seriously injured. There was no time to waste, but he had to survive first. Now, Lu Chen was sure that this was the vortex. If his guess was correct, the vortex had sent him to Earth 17 years later. I have to get out. Lu Chen secretly made up his mind. Chapter 566. While Lu Chen was recuperating for more than a week, Lil Bei brought Lu Chen to another location several times. The Dark Shadow tribe did not let go of the forest either, so they had to be vigilant at all times. There were too many Dark Shadow tribe members on Earth. Cities were massacred one after another, and the human population plummeted. Every time he thought that this was Earth 17 years later, Lu Chen's heart became heavier and heavier. Lil Bei was 17 years old, but he performed better than an adult in this catastrophe. He helped Lu Chen escape capture several times. After about 10 days, Lu Chen's injuries were almost healed. He did not expect that he could recover from such a serious injury. It seemed that it had something to do with Lu Chen's physical strength. Lu Chen had a lot of food in his backpack, but unfortunately, he could not take it out. They could only rely on hunting to survive. On this day, the two of them camped by the stream. Lu Chen was much better now, so he helped to start the fire. Lil Bei was busy processing the raw fish. Lil Bei, did you play Jiutian before? Of course. Jiutian is now a compulsory course for everyone. How can I not play? Lu Chen nodded. That's true. People nowadays are not the same as before. The whole world has changed too much. Hey, you haven't told me your name. Lil Bei looked at Lu Chen strangely. Lu Chen did not want to hide his identity, but when he thought about Lil Bei saying that solipsistic was dead, he changed his words. Call me Nameless. Nameless? Many people use this name. It's said that more than 10 years ago, there was a person called Nameless who was very strong. Lu Chen shook his head self-deprecatingly. Was he strong? You can't even protect Earth and your loved ones. You're so weak. TSK, you speak as if you know him. Nameless doesn't sound good. I'll call you Blockhead. Blockhead? Yes, look at your silly face. You're like a block of wood. Lu Chen smiled and shook his head. Speaking of which, Lil Bei had not been born in his time. Otherwise, he would have really wanted him to join the Frenzied Waves Guild. Oh right, have you heard of the Mad Waves Guild? Big brother, what era are you from? Mad Waves is the strongest guild on Earth. How could you not have heard of them? Almost all of the strongest people in the human race are from Mad Waves. Now we have to find Mad Waves. They are the only ones who can organize a counterattack. The guild that he had casually created had become the last hope of mankind. Lu Chen couldn't help but feel that fate was toying with people. Lil Bei's culinary skills weren't that great, but in this situation, it was good enough that there was something to eat. The next day, Little Bei and Lu Chen headed northeast together. Little Bei said that there were still some cities in the north that had not been occupied. There were dozens of layers of formations set up in the cities. The surviving humans were all guarding the formations. The Mad Waves Guild was there. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. If that man made a move, Wild Waves probably wouldn't be able to hold on for long. He had to get there as soon as possible. Along the way, they passed by many cities. The cities were deathly silent. The Dark Shadow race dragged many corpses back to the warships. Little Bei, do you know why those people want human corpses? They use the corpses to increase their strength. I've seen a Dark Shadow race soldier absorb the death energy of the corpses. Everything in the world has spirit energy. They seem to use a special kind of spirit energy. Lu Chen frowned. Was this the reason why that man had defeated him with one hand? Blockhead, I'll go take a look in the city. If there are any survivors, I'll bring them out. Lu Chen was a little worried. I'll go with you. The two of them shuttled through the ruined streets and alleys, looking for as many corpses as possible. However, in order to not be discovered by the patrolling soldiers, the two of them couldn't search the entire city. Forget it, let's go. It's been too long. Even if they were still alive back then, they won't be alive now. Little Bei shook his head. Blockhead, let's go straight to the headquarters of Mad Waves. The two of them traveled during the day and hid in the suburbs as much as possible at night. 1.5 months later, the two of them saw a large city in the distance. Perhaps the defensive formations were too thick, but they could see that the city was protected by a semicircular arc with the naked eye. There were 2 or 3 warships hovering above the city, but they hadn't launched an attack yet. That should be the headquarters of Mad Waves. Little Bei said excitedly. Then, he pulled Lu Chen's hand and hurried over. Just a mile away from the city, 30 to 40 shadow soldiers suddenly appeared in the suburbs. There's really a fish that escaped the net. What idiots. Fortunately, we were lying in ambush nearby, or else you would have escaped. A shadow soldier sneered. Don't even think about escaping, both of you. Little Bei's face was pale. He didn't expect that they would be caught when they were just one step away from their last hope. Little Bei, stand behind me. Lu Chen grabbed Little Bei. He stared at these shadow soldiers with a faint green light in his eyes. Perhaps it was one of them who killed Li Muhua and Lu Yi. Even if this world was the future Earth, this action still angered Lu Chen. Blockhead, it's over. We can't beat them. Quick, run. You run fast. Don't talk. We have to end this quickly. Otherwise, it'll be a little troublesome when the reinforcements arrive. Place of death. Dragon blood boil. 6 divine transformations. Infinite grace release. Against these small soldiers, Lu Chen didn't dare to be careless. He directly used his strongest move. No damage appeared above these people's heads, proving that this was the real Earth 17 years in the future. However, although he couldn't see the damage, Lu Chen still killed all of them. Little Bei was dumbfounded. She did not expect the dying man she had saved to be so powerful. Blockhead, you're so strong. Lu Chen returned to Little Bei's side and pulled her toward the city. We've been discovered. Quick. As expected, several small fighter jets appeared above their heads. A large group of soldiers jumped down from the fighter jets. Lu Chen wasn't afraid of these soldiers, but he had to worry about the person who defeated him. The more one was afraid of something, the more it would happen. When the two were less than 200 meters away from the defensive formation, a black shadow suddenly flashed across the sky. A sharp sword directly landed in front of Lu Chen, who was moving quickly. If not for Lu Chen's fast reaction, he would have been pierced through. "Kid, I didn't expect you to be so lucky." A pitch-black shadow floated in midair. His clothes fluttered, and his white eyes made people tremble. 200 meters. Ha ha ha. You're only 200 meters away from escaping temporarily. Are you unwilling to accept this? Unfortunately, you'll never have a chance in front of me, the demonic god of death. Lu Chen's eyelids twitched. This was probably the first time he was afraid of someone since he entered Jyotian. That guy was too strong. Damn it. Unless I can cultivate the mixed yuan cultivation technique, I won't be able to defeat him. Lu Chen gritted his teeth. Blockhead, run. Little Bei suddenly shouted. Humans need elites like you. I'll hold him back. Little Bei, come back. Lu Chen shouted. After saying that, Little Bei teleported toward the demonic god of death. Blockhead, I forgot to tell you. My parents and my 2-year-old brother died in his hands. If you can survive, please, avenge them. Little Bei turned around and glared at the demonic god of death. Bastard, give me back my brother. Lu Chen's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He was actually afraid. He was actually afraid. No. Even if he had to die, he couldn't just watch Little Bei die in front of him. 6 transformations of divine demon symbiosis. Chapter 567. Just as Lu Chen was about to make his final gamble, countless sword cheese, fireballs, and Dao talismans suddenly swept out from behind him. They streaked across the sky and shot towards Motian Grim Reaper. Motian Grim Reaper seemed to be wary of these attacks as he hesitated for a moment. It was during this moment of hesitation that Lu Chen flashed behind Little Bei and carried her before using the triple door to escape. Reacting on the spot had always been Lu Chen's strong suit. Motian Grim Reaper was too powerful, and if he were to fight head-on, he wouldn't have any chance of winning. Now that things had happened so suddenly, Lu Chen made a prompt decision to save Little Bei and escape to the city behind him. Trying to run. Void Hand. That fellow could grab onto opponents who were moving. Lu Chen's eyes were about to split open. At the critical moment, he suddenly saw a few shadow soldiers in front of him. Unlimited bestowal liberation. Lu Chen suddenly changed directions and attacked an opponent on the side. After finishing his move, he immediately attacked a second person. At this time, Lu Chen had already pushed all of his body's functions to the limit. He wasn't sure if he could avoid the void condensation hand. He could only desperately use bestowment liberation in the crowd without any rules, not daring to stay for even a second. While he was rapidly killing a person, he had to find the next target. This required him to be extremely focused and couldn't make any mistakes. Maybe death had stimulated Lu Chen's potential, but unlimited bestowal liberation was like a continuous attack without any gap. Faster, faster. Faster. Lu Chen roared as though he was racing against time, racing against the Grim Reaper. After instantly killing dozens of people, Lu Chen finally managed to escape into the defensive formation in front. Separated by the formation, Lu Chen put Little Bei down and let out a long sigh of relief. He had finally escaped from the hands of the Grim Reaper. As he stood in the formation, Lu Chen looked at Motian Grim Reaper from afar. Motian Grim Reaper no longer attacked. He squinted his eyes and stared at Lu Chen. That fellow had saved someone right under his nose. This was something that had never happened before. Lu Chen was also staring at the death god. That fellow might be the crux for him to leave the whirlpool. He had to defeat the death god. Although he was still unable to defeat him, at least in this rescue, he had overcome his own cowardice. A large group of people rushed over from behind. "It can't be, you actually escaped from the hands of the Grim Reaper, this is simply unbelievable. Friend, you're too strong. I've never seen anything like saving someone from the Grim Reaper." "That's great, we have another expert here." "Friend, you must be tired from the journey. This place is safe for the time being. Let's leave this place first." Lu Chen finally looked away. "Thank you for helping me just now." Then, he brought Little North and left with the others. There were probably hundreds of thousands of people in this city. At present, Quan Lang was in charge of organizing the defense. Everyone needed to help maintain the operation of the formation at all times. In just half a month, many buildings had been demolished in the city and large tracts of farmland had been built. It seemed that they were planning to fight for a long time here. "Friend, our president wants to see you." Lu Chen frowned slightly. The president of Quan Lang. Wasn't that himself? No, Solipsistic had already fallen in the whirlpool. Then, the president should be Lang Nuo. Was Lang Nuo still here? Were Feng Lingzi, Luo Yu, Qiu Ning, Handsome, 10 Steps, Falling Flowers, and Stardust still here? Even if they weren't killed by the Dark Shadow race, would they still be here after 17 years? Thinking of this, Lu Chen brought Little North and followed the others to Quan Lang's headquarters. At this moment, the higher-ups of Quan Lang were having a meeting. Lu Chen and the others could only wait outside. "Friend, wait here for a moment. The president and the others are having a meeting." Lu Chen nodded. He waited patiently with Little North in the living room. "Blockhead, you actually escaped from the hands of the Grim Reaper." "Just now, I thought I was dead for sure," Little North said excitedly. Lu Chen smiled and patted Little North's head. This girl reminded him of Lu Yi. "At that time, I was also quick-witted. If I were to fight him one-on-one in the future, I'm afraid it would be difficult to avoid his void condensation hand." "Ah, you want to fight the Grim Reaper one-on-one?" Lu Chen looked into the distance. From here, he could see the huge battleship outside the window. Whether it was for his own world or to leave this place, he had to kill the Grim Reaper. Next time, the Grim Reaper would most likely not deploy anyone around him, giving him a chance to use infinite grace to escape. Then, the next time they met, it would be a one-on-one battle. Quan Lang's meeting lasted for several hours. Little North had already fallen asleep on the table. Lu Chen sat there quietly alone. Not long after, the door was finally pushed open. "Hey, you're the one who escaped from the Grim Reaper." Lu Chen looked at the person. It was a middle-aged man he didn't know. "Yes, it's me." "Then come with me. It just so happens that everyone wants to meet you." Hiding outside had cultivated Little North Pole's high vigilance. When she heard someone speak, she immediately woke up. When she saw Lu Chen and Quan Lang's people, she immediately woke up. "Blockhead, I'll go with you." Lu Chen nodded with a smile and brought Little North to the meeting room. Opening the door of the meeting room, Lu Chen walked into the hall. The moment he appeared, the meeting room suddenly became terrifyingly quiet. Lu Chen saw a few familiar faces at a glance. Lang Nuo, Qiu Ning, Win Qim, 10 Steps, Stardust. Their appearances hadn't changed much. Of course, there were some people Lu Chen didn't know. Perhaps they were new members of Quan Lang in recent years. Lang Nuo was stunned for a few seconds. 2 streams of hot tears rolled down her big eyes. She slowly stood up, her eyes expressing her incomparably complicated emotions. Shock, surprise, and some blame. In short, it was hard to explain. Nameless brother. 10 Steps also stood up, his eyes filled with disbelief. Master. Qiu Ning pushed her chair away and ran into Lu Chen's arms. She was in great pain. Mad God. Qin blankly called out the name in the depths of her memory. Unfortunately, there were still many people who weren't there. Handsome, charming, little beauty, gaming black hole, and the three Adonis. Qin didn't need to ask much. He roughly knew the result. The new members looked at the person at the door with a blank expression. What? Nameless, mad god. Wait, he's the president of Quang Lang. Didn't they say that he died 17 years ago? Is it really him? Qin helped the crying Chiu Ning up and smiled. Don't cry. There are so many people here. Chiu Ning sadly wiped her tears. Master, I miss you so much. Qin nodded. It was all his fault. He hadn't seen them for a long time. If he had known, he would have visited them when he went to the second layer of heaven. Lang Noa also walked over. President, why are you only back now? Qin shook his head. He didn't belong here. The Qin here might have really died or was still trapped in the whirlpool. However, Qin was sure of one thing. If he really died in the whirlpool, his friends would be so sad. At this moment, Qin took a deep breath. No matter what, he had to break out of the whirlpool. The group of old friends stayed behind and asked about their experiences. Qin didn't explain the truth. Firstly, it was hard to explain. Secondly, he didn't want Lang Noa and the others to continue being sad. Oh right, how long can our defensive array last? This array was left behind by rhubarb. Even Matian Death God wouldn't be able to break it temporarily. However, it's only temporary. Currently, we can feel that the array's durability is decreasing. According to the current speed, it will last at most a year. Rhubarb? 17 years ago, weren't you sucked into the whirlpool with rhubarb? 2 years later, rhubarb broke out of the whirlpool and seemed to have changed. He even left behind an array here. Ah! Qin didn't dare to believe it. He didn't expect for rhubarb to break out of the whirlpool. Didn't that guy only know how to search for things? When he thought about himself, he felt ashamed. Where is rhubarb? He left. Feng Ling said, rhubarb knew that you didn't come out, so he went to look for you. After that, we never saw him again. Qin frowned. Did rhubarb go to other whirlpools? But the good news was that rhubarb was fine. 2 years later, he would break out of the whirlpool by himself. Furthermore, rhubarb successfully broke out of the whirlpool, which meant that they could leave the whirlpool. The array can only last for a year. I have to become stronger within this year. That's right, are there any cultivation resources here? Qin asked urgently. Chapter 568. Earth was not Jiutian. There was no place to farm monsters and level up. However, there was a warehouse in the city that stored all the items that everyone had withdrawn. Mad waves had been around for almost 20 years. It was definitely a considerable amount of wealth. Brother Nameless, the immortal spirit pills are here. Lang Noa opened the safe in the warehouse. There were dozens of immortal spirit pills inside. There are 32 in total. Immortal spirit pills are too rare. We've only accumulated this much after decades. Lang Noa took out all the immortal spirit pills and handed them to Qin. Brother Nameless, here you go. Qin looked at Lang Noa in a daze. Immortal spirit pills were very precious to Mad Waves. However, when he asked for them, Lang Noa did not hesitate at all. She did not even hold a voting meeting. She directly exercised her authority as the president and gave him all the immortal spirit pills. This woman was really a little silly. She did not hold back at all. If not for the fact that Qin was not in the mood to talk about love, he would have pulled Lang Noa into his arms. However, this thought only flashed through his mind. After all, his goal was to leave this place. Brother Nameless, are you really not going to stay at the Emperor Hotel? We all miss you. It's good to see you every now and then. Lu Chen shook his head. I'm going to be in seclusion for a while. I won't be able to focus if I stay next to you. I'll just find a place to stay outside. Ling Noa was also a woman who understood the big picture. She did not continue to persuade Lu Chen. Noa, help me take care of little Bei. She saved my life. Her family is no longer here. Don't worry. This will be her home from now on. Brother Nameless, just focus on your cultivation. After taking the immortal spirit pills, Lu Chen did not say goodbye to the others and left the command center alone. The previously crowded streets were now deserted. Almost everyone had to take turns to provide spiritual energy for the defensive formation. When they were resting, they had to look after the fields and collect daily necessities. No one had time to spare. At the edge of the defensive formation, Lu Chen found a small shop by the street. The goods here had already been collected. Lu Chen pushed aside the counter in the shop and cleared out an empty space. I wonder if taking pills here will have any effect. In order to ensure that he did not waste resources, Lu Chen opened his personal interface and swallowed an immortal spirit pill. After consuming it, his spiritual energy value did not change. Lu Chen's eyes widened. It can't be, right? Why aren't there any changes? He took another pill, but there was still no change. Impossible. Lu Chen fell to the ground and almost collapsed. Let's try cultivating. Sitting down cross-legged, Lu Chen attempted to cultivate his spiritual force. However, even after 10 minutes, there was still no change in his pure spiritual energy. Fuck. Why couldn't he cultivate? I've clearly asked the others, and they can all cultivate. Taking medicinal pills is also effective. Is it because I don't belong here? Lu Chen couldn't think of an answer to this question. In short, he couldn't rely on pills to increase his strength here, nor could he cultivate. Damn it! If I can't become stronger, how can I defeat the Grim Reaper? Lu Chen sat on the ground. No, other people can rush out of the vortex, so there must be a way. Let me think about it. At this moment, Lu Chen was safe and his body had almost recovered. He could think about his situation. The easiest way to get out of the vortex was to find the answer from other people's successful experiences. Currently, the only clue was the void shattering mentioned by the 3 super experts of the War God Temple. That's a skill, but I've never heard of it before. Suddenly, Lu Chen seemed to have thought of something. Void shattering. Void beast. Void condensing claw, they all have the word void. Could there be a connection? The void beast is the slave of the vortex. If there is a connection between these 3, then the essence of the vortex is actually void? Could it be that the void beast drops the void shattering technique, and the void shattering technique can break the vortex? But where is the void beast here? Could it be that the Grim Reaper is the void beast? The Grim Reaper's void condensing claw is a bit similar to the void beast's claw. He might really be the void beast, but I can't beat him now. What a headache. That day, Lu Chen took a stroll outside the house alone. Now that he had no idea how to escape from the vortex, he decided to take a stroll outside to relax. Across the formation, Lu Chen saw many shadow soldiers patrolling on the opposite side. From time to time, there would be people attacking the formation. What kind of race are these people? Speaking of which, I have seen many races. Why haven't I seen these races before? They look very similar to humans, but their skin is pitch black and I can't see their faces clearly. Looking at them destroying the formation, Lu Chen suddenly had an idea. Why don't I catch one and study it? Lu Chen slapped his forehead. That's right. Although they were very weak, they were from the same race as the Grim Reaper. Maybe they had something in common. Thinking of this, Lu Chen targeted a lone shadow soldier. With a flash, he grabbed that guy's collar and instantly returned to the defensive formation. In order not to attract attention, Lu Chen directly returned to his residence after he succeeded. In the room, only Lu Chen and that shadow soldier were left. That person still wanted to run, but he was kicked in the knee by Lu Chen and fell to the ground. If you want to run again, I don't mind killing you first and then find someone else to chat with. Lu Chen threatened. That person saw Lu Chen's face. His eyes turned, and his heart suddenly tightened. Wasn't this guy the human who escaped from the Grim Reaper's hands? Although he wasn't a match for the Grim Reaper, he could easily kill ordinary soldiers. Moreover, he was now inside the defensive formation. Even if he ran out, he would only die. Listen, if you answer my question seriously, I will let you go. Lu Chen said. What do you want to ask? Is the Grim Reaper a void beast? What are you talking about? What void beast? We look pretty much the same as you guys, so how could we be those elusive creatures? Lu Chen couldn't help but want to laugh. He really didn't expect that the breakthrough would be from this guy. He had already indirectly admitted that they were void beasts. Since they didn't know what a void beast was, how would they know what a void beast looked like? Now, Lu Chen not only suspected that the Grim Reaper was a void beast, but these ordinary soldiers were also void beasts. The appearance that this dark shadow soldier said was the same as the Grim Reaper's appearance. Since the Grim Reaper was most likely a void beast, then the other dark shadow soldiers could also be void beasts. He really didn't expect that the void beasts that were incomparably powerful in the 9 heavens and didn't suffer any form of attack, almost invincible, would be so weak here. The Grim Reaper might be a void beast that preserved the strength of the Jiutian, so Lu Chen wasn't his opponent at all. I don't know what you are talking about. I really don't know what a void beast is. Let me go, or when our reinforcements arrive, I will make you regret being born in this world. You have reinforcements? Yes, so what if I tell you? Do you dare to come out? Your world is about to be wiped out. Do I need to be afraid of you? Let me tell you, as long as you let me go, I will find a way to spare your life in the future. Lu Chen coldly snorted, since your goal is to wipe out the human race, do you think I will believe your words? After saying that, Lu Chen stood up and pulled out the limitless sword. Besides, you don't have to pretend anymore. I already understand. It didn't matter if this world was the Earth 17 years later, the Dark Shadow soldiers were most likely void beasts. Since there were void beasts, Lu Chen naturally wanted to get a copy of Shattering the Void. With a slash, Lu Chen killed the Dark Shadow soldier. Unfortunately, he didn't drop anything. Lu Chen shook his head. He wasn't sure if the Dark Shadow soldiers could shatter the void, but he had no other choice. If it doesn't drop, then I can only kill more. Lu Chen ruthlessly said. Chapter 569. The Dark Shadow Warrior didn't drop anything after he finished him off with a single strike. If one isn't enough, then I'll kill more. Lu Chen was determined to kill more of these Dark Shadow Warriors. For a week, Lu Chen transformed into a devil in black and madly captured Dark Shadow Warriors. He changed his residence 7 or 8 times, basically once a day. After killing dozens of Dark Shadow Warriors at each location, the enemy would become alert. Why did their numbers suddenly decrease? They would contact their superiors and send experts to monitor, but by then Lu Chen would have already changed locations. Later on, Lu Chen became even more cautious. He would observe for half a day and attack if there were no abnormalities. If he felt unsafe, he would immediately change locations. The city was so big that Lu Chen could always find a place with the weakest defense. A month later, Wild Wave's headquarters were already discussing why the frequency of attacking the Dark Shadow race's formation had decreased. However, Lu Chen had also killed thousands of Dark Shadow warriors during this month, but he still didn't see them drop anything. Just when Lu Chen was wondering if his deduction was correct, Lu Chen kidnapped a dark shadow race expert on a moonless and windy night. This person's military rank seemed to be different from the others. The pattern on his military insignia was also different. Judging from the others' attitude towards him, he was obviously a leader. The other party probably didn't expect Lu Chen to kidnap their leader. That day, the camp's defense was quite lax. It was because of this that Lu Chen, whose hope was getting slimmer and slimmer, decided to risk everything and kidnap their leader. "You dare attack me?" The man looked angrily at Lu Chen. Lu Chen smiled disdainfully. "Is it strange? Tell me, are you a void beast?" "Void beasts don't take any attacks because they aren't real. You guys are the real void beasts, right? You want to get information from me? Dream on." This guy was also a tough nut to crack. Unfortunately, he met Lu Chen. Lu Chen raised his blade and cut off his arms. "Next time it will be your legs, and the next time it will be your neck. You have 2 more chances." That person screamed and looked at his arms in horror. You. I will let the Grim Reaper tear you into pieces. Dismember him into 1,000 pieces. You reminded me. Tell me, which part of your flesh should I cut off first?" A trace of fear flashed through the shadow officer's eyes. With this guy's style, he would definitely do what he said. This guy's cruelty was no less than the dark shadow races. If he didn't speak, he would have to face torture. "I'll give you 3 seconds to consider." Lu Chen stared coldly at the shadow officer. "Don't even think about it." After the shadow officer finished speaking, Murong's face suddenly turned ferocious. Then, he spat out a large amount of blood. He had killed himself by biting his tongue. Lu Chen looked coldly at the officer's corpse. "You have some guts, but we are still enemies." At this moment, Lu Chen discovered that this guy's body was emitting bits of starlight. Did he drop something? Obtained item, Shattered Void, Fragment *1, among Lu Chen's items, only this new item could be used. Damn, he really dropped it. Lu Chen nearly exclaimed. He originally didn't have any hope, but at this moment, it really dropped. Shattered Void was a scroll that was formed by a total of 108 fragments. He had to gather all of them to obtain the Shattered Void cultivation technique. Although it seemed that there was still a long way to go, at least Lu Chen saw hope. It seems like I have to kill a shadow officer of this level to obtain the fragments. Alright, let's start farming. For the rest of the time, Lu Chen locked onto the officers of the various teams. Whenever he saw an officer, Lu Chen would think of a way to capture them and kill them. Of course, killing the other party's higher-ups would definitely attract the attention of the other party. After killing over a dozen officers, the other party's defense started to tighten, and the officers rarely acted alone. Lu Chen hadn't gotten anything for a few days, and if this carried on, he didn't know when he would be able to gather all the fragments. After a few days of deliberation, Lu Chen decided to leave the city. As long as he didn't meet the Mo Sky Grim Reaper, he would be safe. The world was so big, and he might not meet that fellow. After telling his thoughts to Lang Noa was extremely worried. Brother Nameless, are you sure you want to go out by yourself? It is very dangerous outside. Lu Chen nodded. This is my mission. I have to leave this place. But you just came back. Lu Chen shook his head. I am doing this so that everyone doesn't have to hide behind the defensive array in the future. Noa, be obedient and take care of everyone. Don't tell them that I am leaving. Finishing his statement, Lu Chen turned and left. Lang Noa looked at Lu Chen's resolute back view and had mixed feelings. Nameless, wait. Leave through the underground drainage system. She still supported Lu Chen unconditionally. Lu Chen nodded and couldn't bear to look at Lang Noa. That night, Lu Chen sneaked out of the city under the cover of the night. 2 months later, a shadow team was ambushed and all 78 of them were killed, including a general-ranked officer. From then on, there were many incidents of teams being ambushed in this region. But when the reinforcements from the other cities arrived, this place regained its peace. 1 month later, in a city that was 100 miles away, the ground search team was ambushed and killed. All 93 of them were killed without a single survivor. Ambushes happened one after another, giving the Dark Shadow Legion a headache. In the command center of the Shadow Legion, the Devil Sky Death God was seated in the main seat. His subordinates were reporting the recent situation and emphasized on the mysterious man ambushing the officer. These people were all talking at once and giving all sorts of suggestions. Suddenly, the Devil Sky Death God stood up, and everyone quickly shut up. The Devil Sky Death God said coldly, "There is no need to worry about him. After he obtains the Shattered Void, he will definitely come to kill me. By then, he will naturally appear." "Marshal, how do you know that he will appear?" The Devil Sky Death God's lips curled up. "I have exchanged moves with him twice, and I can see the hatred in his eyes. I understand such a person. He must be thinking of killing me at all times. By then, I will not give him a second chance and will personally kill him." Lu Chen had been here for around 1.5 years. Normally, he would live in the wilderness and kill the Dark Shadow Race's officer whenever he had the chance. Unknowingly, his hair had already grown long. Ever since he came here, Lu Chen couldn't go offline, but his body didn't have any abnormalities. Perhaps the synchronization here was higher, and he could obtain food and energy here and synchronize with reality. However, Lu Yi would definitely be very anxious. On a certain day, in a cave in the forest, a long-haired man took a deep breath and said, "Synthesize. Obtained item, Shatter the Void, Heaven Class Mid-Grade Cultivation Technique, Special Type. Learn." After learning it, Lu Chen quickly checked the description of the cultivation technique. Shatter the void with a single punch. Consume all the pure spirit chi to deliver a lethal punch. At the same time, this cultivation technique can shatter the highest domain type effect. Lu Chen squinted his eyes slightly. The damage here was directly to the physical body, which meant that his nirvana rebirth was no longer effective. Including the spirit chi storm, he only had 2 chances. These 2 punches would determine if he could defeat the Devil Sky Death God. Chapter 570. 100 times the damage. This cultivation technique is so overpowered. If I punch with my full strength, even Motion's Grim Reaper might not be able to take my punch. This is a pure damage type skill, but it consumes all of my pure spirit chi. This is like staking everything on one throw. Either he dies, or I die. When Motion's Grim Reaper fought with me, he didn't use his full strength. I have to be careful. Since there was no other way to increase his strength here, Lu Chen could only choose to fight. Motion. I, Lu Chen, will take revenge for this world's Lu Yi and Luo Yu. After more than a year, the stream had become clear. Lu Chen took a bath in the river, cut his long hair, and went on his way after tidying up. At Violent Wave's headquarters, the city's defensive array was being damaged again and again. Grim Reaper found an assistant to launch a fierce attack on the defensive array. Our defensive array's energy is already running low, and it won't be able to hold on for long. Xing Chen's face was filled with anxiety. Leng Noa nodded, "I know. It seems like we won't be able to escape this calamity. Inform everyone to be prepared for a life-and-death battle with the Dark Shadow Race." "Sister Noa, I've already informed them." Feng Lingzi said. "Is this the final fate of mankind?" "Oh right, where's my master? I haven't seen him for more than a year." Qiu Ning asked. Leng Noa also knew that she couldn't hide it anymore. Brother Nameless left a year and a half ago. He said he wanted to find a way to become stronger. What? Sister Noah, why didn't you say so earlier? I haven't met my master many times. Lang Noah shook her head. He told me not to tell you guys. He didn't want you guys to worry. However, it's a good thing that Brother Nameless left. He might have a chance to survive. I believe that as long as the president survives, we won't completely lose. Everyone agreed on this point. Even though they hadn't seen each other for 17 years, the impression that Nameless gave them was that he didn't want to admit defeat. 3 days later, the defensive array couldn't take it anymore. With a burst of light, the most important defensive array was destroyed. The other smaller defensive arrays couldn't even withstand a single blow from the Dark Shadow Army. The entire city no longer had any defenses and was completely exposed to the enemy. However, the enemy was not in a hurry to attack. After they landed, they lined up neatly and faced off against the human army. Strange, why haven't they made a move yet? Stardust asked doubtfully. Lang Noah didn't know the reason either. I don't know either. It seems like they're waiting for orders. This confrontation continued for an entire day. The human army did not dare to slack off, but they did not take the initiative to attack either. The next day, the other side seemed to be getting impatient. A high-ranking officer walked up to the army and shouted, "Everyone, prepare to attack." A black shadow suddenly appeared in the sky. He looked down at the ground, narrowed his eyes, and shook his head in disappointment. That person did not appear. Let's begin. Kill all of them. The Grim Reaper said indifferently, as if he was not deciding the life and death of hundreds of thousands of people, but the life and death of a group of ants. Withering domain. For a moment, the heavens and earth changed color. Crows were dim for 100 li, and dark clouds covered the sky. A domain skill. This guy is really too strong. Stardust exclaimed. Now is not the time to talk about this. Everyone, prepare for battle. Lang Noah shouted, everyone knows that this is our last battle. I don't need to lie to you and say that we still have hope. This is a battle that we have no chance of winning, but... Do you still remember your family? Your wives, husbands, parents, children, brothers and sisters, your friends, they have all gone to another world. Actually, I wanted to go with them a long time ago. But I was not willing. I was not willing to accept that those murderers were not punished. I was not willing to accept that our deaths were meaningless. So, in this battle, I will fight with my last breath. If I can kill one, I will kill one. If I can kill two, I will avenge one person. If I can kill three, I will avenge my parents. As Lang Noah spoke, everyone looked at him. The hatred that had been suppressed in their eyes for a long time exploded at this moment. That's right. Even if they couldn't win, they had to kill a few more of the Dark Shadow race and avenge their family. They think that we are cowering here because we are afraid of death. They don't know that to us, death isn't the most terrifying thing. It is to live alone. When there were only a few 100,000 people left in the world, life and death were no longer important. President, we are the same as you. We are not afraid of death. We want to take revenge. Yes, revenge. I want to take revenge for my wife. This bunch of bastards, I want to kill them. Brothers, there is no need to fear death. Let them pay the price. The morale of the human army had been completely roused. Both armies were ready to fight, and the final battle was about to break out. Right at this moment, Motian Grim Reaper suddenly raised his hand, and the Dark Shadow race suddenly went silent. The high-ranking officer immediately raised his hand and shouted, everyone, wait for orders. The human army was just in high morale, but the other party suddenly stopped. This felt a little awkward. In the sky, that man who was used to landing on the ground suddenly flashed between the two armies. Seeing this person, the human army couldn't help but gasp. Was this guy going to take action personally? That woman, you are the leader of the human army. Do you dare to come up and fight with me? Everyone looked at Motian Grim Reaper with fear. In a battle between two armies, it was very common for the commanders to fight one-on-one. Leng Noa was the leader of the human army, and it was naturally her turn. Grim Reaper, you actually took action personally. Xing Chen glared at Motian Grim Reaper. Grim Reaper lifted his chin slightly. Why? Is it very strange? I just think that you are a bunch of ants, and I don't want you to think that you died a noble death. I want you to know how petty you are. Didn't you say it very well earlier? Why? Now that I am asking you to fight with me, you don't dare to. In other words, what you said earlier was bullshit. Leng Noa glared at Grim Reaper. Right now, she was in a very difficult situation. If she didn't accept the challenge, it would be the same as admitting defeat, and the morale of the human army would definitely decline. If she accepted the challenge, she would definitely lose. Although everyone knew that it was inevitable for their leader to be killed, their morale was still completely gone. If the other party killed her, the morale of the human army would definitely be gone. No matter what choice they made, it would be wrong. Right at this moment, an indifferent voice echoed behind the human army. Black Pig, do you know the outcome of bullying my people? Everyone turned their heads. A man wearing a red long robe was walking over slowly. His appearance seemed to have experienced the vicissitudes of life, and he was even more mature and calm than when they first met. His eyes were slightly suffused with green mist, and it was unknown why human eyes would have such a situation. Beside him, there was a pair of black and white swords suspended. Seeing this person, Motian Grim Reaper couldn't help but laugh. You are finally here. Very good, very good. I have been waiting for you for a long time. Lu Qin squinted his eyes. Such a coincidence. I have also been waiting for this day for a long time. Chapter 571. Brother Nameless. Leng Noa looked at the newcomer in shock, her thoughts going back to 20 years ago. She seemed to have returned to the time when she was bullied by the Friendship Guild. When Nameless appeared, she seemed to have seen her Prince Charming. All these years, she had been supporting the Frenzy Wave Guild. Now, Leng Noa had become independent and powerful. Not many people could deal with someone she couldn't deal with. She no longer needed protection, and no one would protect her. But after 20 years, this scene appeared once again. That person was standing in front of her again. And this time, his opponent was so strong that it made her despair. Master. Xiao Ning looked at Lu Chen with grievance. To be honest, this master was not responsible at all. But it was strange. As the daughter of a rich family, her princess temper would only turn into a well-behaved girl in front of him. There was no other reason, it was because she had always worshipped her master. Little Bei's heart pounded. Blockhead was here. The person she had accidentally saved had now become everyone's last hope. Lu Qin smiled at his friends and walked to the front of the human army. I am the Frenzy Wave Guild leader, so if you want to fight one-on-one, I will be your opponent. Grim Reaper laughed wildly. Ha ha ha, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you are the guild leader or not. For the past 1.5 years, you have been assassinating my people. You should have learned how to break through the void by now, but I did not really look for you. Do you know why? Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. Because your destiny is to defeat me, and my destiny is to defeat breaking through the void. Lone Tyrant, your guess is correct. We are the void beasts. Our race traverses the river of time, absorbing death energy to strengthen themselves. Our physical bodies are nearly invincible. However, our consciousness is trapped inside the vortex. Lone Tyrant said, a hint of fanaticism flashing in his eyes. A race like us should be above the Jiutian, but we are trapped in the vortex. What is even more ridiculous is that our bodies nurture the fragments of the void, but we cannot cultivate. We are forced to become NPCs in the Jyotian. The more the Grim Reaper spoke, the more agitated he became. The rage that he had been suppressing in his heart for a long time seemed to be about to explode at this moment. On the human side, many people looked confused. What vortex is he talking about? What do you mean by the consciousness is imprisoned in the whirlpool? They travel through the river of time. I don't know what it means either. Perhaps the only one who knew the answer was Lu Chen, but Lu Chen was also extremely shocked. Lu Chen was a monster in Jyotian. Logically speaking, he was also an NPC in Jyotian. This meant that he and the Dark Shadow race were in the same situation. They both had a way to become abnormally strong. Lu Chen evolved and leveled up, and the Dark Shadow race absorbed death energy. They both had their own consciousness and could make their own choices. The only difference was that the Dark Shadow race was imprisoned inside the whirlpool for some unknown reason. If the Dark Shadow race could drop the Shattered Void, then what kind of special item would he drop if he died? What kind of item would that be? Thinking of this, Lu Chen shook his head. It was best if he didn't know the answer. Lone Tyrant. Countless experts have been sent into the maelstrom. Very few of them managed to obtain a Shattered Void by chance. Once they obtained a Shattered Void, their chances of escaping from the maelstrom greatly increased. But that's not my whirlpool. In my whirlpool, I want to defeat the Shattered Void with my own hands. I want to rewrite my fate. Unfortunately, Solipsistic, you met me. Otherwise, you might really be able to escape. Lu Chen looked at Grim Reaper indifferently. Then there is only one way to know who is the unlucky one. Grim Reaper sneered and withdrew his gaze. I was waiting for you to say that. The commander of the Dark Shadow race, Grim Reaper Matian, and the last hope of the human race, Lu Chen, the leader of the Wild Wave Guild, stepped out and stood in the empty space between the two armies. The strongest of the two armies stood in front of the two armies. Everyone in the two armies was watching this battle. Withering Domain. Grim Reaper activated his domain as soon as he stepped onto the battlefield. A cloud of black death aura with a suffocating chill instantly engulfed the entire city. Before the battle even started, everyone couldn't help but think of death. Death's descent, all types of attack power reduced by 60%, attack speed reduced by 30%, damage received from darkness-type attacks increased by 40%, rage-type skills lost effect, invincible super body state lost effect, respawn skills lost effect, doppelgangers, illusions, and possessed gods lost 5% of their max HP every second, recovery-type skills cooldown increased by 10 minutes. Withering Domain had an extremely abnormal negative effect, and its level was extremely high. Many of Lu Chen's skills were restricted. Under extreme conditions, Lu Chen's skills had no cooldown, but now, many of his skills were restricted. In addition, Rejuvenation and Spirit Energy Storm's cooldowns were greatly increased. On the other hand, Grim Reaper's attributes greatly increased in the Withering Domain. His attack power increased, and most importantly, he obtained the Condensed Void effect. Of course, Lu Chen already knew about these conditions. He could only use Spirit Energy Storm once, which meant that he could only use Shattered Void twice. He only had 2 chances. Dragon's Blood Boil, Death's Land. The order of these 2 skills was very important. Dragon's Blood Boil would reduce 80% of his current HP, while Death's Land would reduce 20% of his max HP. Normally, Lu Chen would use Death's Land first, followed by Dragon's Blood Boil. That way, he could still retain 16% of his HP. But this time, he used Dragon's Blood Boil first, followed by Death's Land. At first, he lost 80% of his max HP without any reduction. Then, he lost another 20% of his max HP, which was equivalent to using up all his remaining HP. The HP bar was not displayed here, but Lu Chen spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned pale, his body trembled violently, and blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. And this time, the skill that was enough to kill directly activated Lu Chen's celestial demon origin barrier. A 1,500-meter radius around Lu Chen was shrouded in a black fog. Withering Domain was not weakened by the celestial demon origin barrier, but the barrier's effect was only 50%. Within the barrier, the time elapsed by the side was reduced by 25%, the enemy's speed increased by 25%, all heavenly might attacks damage increased by 25%, and the 50% damage reduction effect was ignored. He obtained the celestial demon walk, but the invincible state was no longer effective. After all, a domain was of a higher level than a barrier. Even if the celestial demon origin barrier was of a high quality, it was still suppressed by Withering Domain in terms of skill quality. Everyone looked at Lu Chen in shock. What is Nameless doing? The opponent is Grim Reaper. How is Nameless going to fight in this state? The battle hasn't even started, and it's already like this. How is he going to fight? Could it be that Nameless doesn't want to be killed by the opponent and destroy our morale? Grim Reaper frowned slightly. You fought me in a near-death state. It seems like you also know that even if you were at full health, you would still be killed by me. There's no difference between full HP and a sliver of HP in front of me. If that's the case, then you're going to stake it all on one throw and push your attributes to the limit. Unfortunately, no matter how much you struggle, you won't be able to change the outcome. In my Withering Domain, I am God. Chapter 572. Triple Withering Domain. The Death God yelled out, causing the surrounding death aura to surge. In front of my triple domain, what's there to fear about a trashy skill like the Void Shatter? Do you think you can break my triple domain? Even with 100-fold attack, your attack won't be able to break 1 billion. Solipsistic, today is your death date. The humans were already in a state of fear. Oh my God, triple domain. This is the effect of strengthening the triple domain. Mo Tian seems to be fearful of that Void Shatter and intentionally increased his Withering Domain to triple domain. This is too horrifying. Mo Tian's strength is too heaven-defying. Brother Nameless probably doesn't have any chance of winning. After Mo Tian set up the triple Withering Domain, Lu Chen didn't have any distractions. Devil 6 transformations. Eternal Night. God-Devil Symbiosis. Right now, apart from the 3 lifetime reincarnation, that didn't have any effect and caused the Frenzy passive attack to be reduced by 16 times, Lu Chen was already in his peak condition. However, Lu Chen wasn't done yet. Lu Chen suddenly yelled out, "Humans, are you willing to worship me as a god?" Leng Noa and the others were startled. Answer me. Yes. Foam Lingzi was the first to yell out, "You are our human race's battle god. You were in the past, and you are now. Yes, we are willing to worship you as a god. Only the battle god can defeat the death god. We are willing to worship you as a god." Lu Chen nodded and looked at the death god coldly. In front of me, you aren't fit to be called a god. Worship heaven's divine prowess. There was a boom as an intense golden light burst out from Lu Chen's body and instantly engulfed the entire place. Lu Chen's attributes increased by 800,000, all of which were added to his strength. Heaven-defying demonic prowess. This time, everyone in the map, apart from the death god, had their attributes forcefully deducted. Lu Chen's attributes increased by another 800,000, all of which were added to his strength. 6 million strength meant 6 million basic attack, 800,000 physical defense, and the horrifying attack doubled. Lu Chen's attack had reached an extremely horrifying level. Dual godly might. Mo Tian's death god widened his eyes. This fellow actually had dual god's prowess, and his single god's prowess wasn't inferior to his own. Gods and demons coexisted, and both gods and demons possessed the might of gods and demons. At this moment, Lu Chen was half god and half demon. There was even a faint flicker of Buddhist light around him. In his hand, the godly demon Limitless Sword emitted an unprecedented radiance. One side of the sky was enveloped in golden light, while the other side was surging with black fog. This is. Oh my god, what is Nameless Bro? Even though I've seen countless experts, I've never seen anything like this. The coexistence of gods and demons is impossible. The existence of such a thing is illogical. At this moment, Leng Noa suddenly said faintly, "What you saw was the symbiosis of gods and demons, but what I saw was only Brother Nameless and nothing else." Qiu Ning took a deep breath. Whether he is a god or a demon, he is still my master. He is still the president that we all know. Stardust's chest heaved up and down. That's right, he is himself. He has always been, shatter the void. No one expected that Lu Chen's first move would be to shatter the void. This fist blasted towards the sky while Lu Chen roared, "Let's not talk about your 3 domains. I am going to shatter this primal chaos whirlpool and shatter this Jiutian firmament." A loud sound echoed, and the world felt like it was going to collapse. At this moment, the earth shook, and the world was collapsing. In the distance, the city's buildings were collapsing, and the ground was cracking. 100 times the attack. When Lu Chen was in his peak state, if this fist was expressed in numerical terms, it was already hard to imagine. A fist shattering the void. The triple withering domain was shattered by a fist. Death God's eyes were about to split open. What? In order to deal with the shatter the void, Death God consulted large amounts of data and went through untold hardships before grasping the triple domain. An average person's fist wouldn't be able to shatter it. As long as he could shatter the void, no one would be able to threaten him anymore. However, Lu Chen's fist directly shattered the triple domain. Without the domain, Void Hand couldn't be used, and at the same time, it couldn't restrict Lu Chen. Very good. Unfortunately, how could I not be prepared for this day? Reverse blood restart. Triple death withering domain. The withering domain that had just been shattered forcefully healed, and the scattered ashes of the dead were reignited. With an even more violent momentum, it rolled out and engulfed the whole place. Spiritual energy storm. Shatter the void. Lu Chen quickly recovered his spiritual energy and punched out again. Everyone was going crazy. These 2 lunatics, one had 2 domains, and one was stronger than the other. The other was even more ruthless, breaking 2 triple domains with 2 punches. Between heaven and earth, everything was shattered, and the world was shaking. Death God was also furious. He originally thought that the solipsistic wouldn't be able to break the triple domain. Now, it seemed that the opponent's attack power was too terrifying, and the triple domain was directly shattered. Originally, he still had a trick up his sleeve, which could strengthen the withering domain and lay down another triple domain. Shatter the void would consume all of his pure spiritual energy, so he would almost certainly win. However, the solipsistic still had a technique to recover pure spiritual energy. Logically speaking, if there was one, then there was one. However, a normal person would definitely save this shatter the void for killing the enemy. However, the solipsistic didn't hesitate at all, and directly shattered the domain with a punch. Demon King's Will, refresh. Spiritual energy storm. Lu Chen quickly recovered pure spiritual energy, but just as the skill recovered a bit of pure spiritual energy, it was suddenly interrupted. Delayed trigger. Death God roared. You want to win? Dream on. So what if you broke my domain? I still have a trump card. Lu Chen's debuff didn't disappear with the shattering of the domain, and all the abnormal statuses were extended by 10 seconds. This way, even if there was no domain, there was no difference between being in the domain for the next 10 seconds. Spiritual energy storm was forced into a cooldown state, and the cooldown time was 10 minutes. Of course, spiritual energy storm's cooldown couldn't really reach 10 minutes. When the 10 seconds delay was over, the restriction could be removed. However, 10 seconds was enough to determine life and death. Without Shatter the Void, let's see how you can win against me. Void Hand. Die. Lu Chen roared. Phantoms. Descend. Lu Chen descended madly among the phantoms, and he didn't dare to stop at all. Moreover, there was no pattern to his movement trajectory. After saving Little Bei last time, Lu Chen understood that Void Hand also needed to lock onto his real body to catch him. As long as he was fast enough, it wasn't impossible to avoid it. How much pure spiritual energy do you have left? Let's see if you can keep running. Death God sneered. Lu Chen's pure spiritual energy didn't recover much at all, and he definitely couldn't hold on for 10 seconds. At that moment, a face suddenly appeared in front of Death God. Who said I'm going to keep running? This guy actually dared to descend in front of me. Void Condensing Hand, grab. Tiger descends the mountain. Lu Chen roared. Almost at the same time, Death God's hand had already grabbed Lu Chen's neck, and Lu Chen greeted Death God with a 10-hit combo at the same time. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.